trying to sort that.
I was about to ask, you use a lot of virtual labs or?
Yes, the next semester we are calling them in.
Mm.
Okay, so I think we will start ya, insyaAllah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone, okay, to our audience and especially to our speakers, okay, for our program this morning. Welcome to our program, which is a sharing session on Anugerahas YB Menteri Pendidikan Malaysia, Reka Bentuk Kurikulum dan Penyampaian Inovatif, or also widely known as Akri. Okay, so I am Dr. Hasmawati from Faculty of Engineering, IIUM, and I will be the moderator this morning. Okay, so this sharing session is organized by the Center for Professional Development, or CPD, IIUM, and you can join us either through the Zoom, okay, Zoom link. Okay, you might have the link, or you can also join us live through CPD's YouTube channel. Okay, so basically before we start our program, before we start with our first speaker, I'm just going to revise back the flow of the program this morning. So we will start with our first speaker, inshallah, at 9, and we will end, inshallah, the session, the whole session at 1 p.m. So it's a 4 hours sharing session. And we have 4 speakers this morning, and they will talk, each of them will talk on the different category of in Akri, which are the curriculum program pengajian inovatif. The second category is pengajian transformatif. Third category is pengalaman pembelajaran imersif, and the fourth category is pentaksiran alternatif. Okay, so I have a few announcements here. First one is we will have a Q&A session at the end of each speaker's session. So if you have any question, you can type on the chat box, and I will read your question later to our speaker after they finish their sharing session. And also 30 minutes after we start the program, there will be an attendance link. It will be provided at the chat box, so you can click on that and fill in the attendance form. Okay, so without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, which is Professor Dr. Hajah Nur Azia Haji Alias. Okay, so she will share, okay, the first category, and she is a professor at the Faculty of Education, UITM, and she is also the Director of Academic Development, UITM, and her main field of interest are instruction design and technology, ICT for development, technology enhanced learning environment, learner support in online and distance learning, and design and development research in instructional technology. So all of these research areas are very, relatable with our online learning and teaching nowadays. Okay, and in 2019, Prof. Dr. Hajah Nur Azia won a gold award at the EduTech Asia Award. Okay, so I invite Prof to start the first session.
Thank you, Dr. Asmawati. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Can I run a check? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prof.
All right, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, thank you for the opportunity for me to be here today. Actually, Dr. Asmawati forgot one thing. I'm also an alumni of IIUM. And I will be, but for today, I'm not here as an alumni. I'm sharing this particular thing that we do at the ministry, which is basically the what we call Akri, Anugerah Khas Yang Berhormat Menteri Pendidikan Malaysia. So for today's sharing session, I'm going to use some of the KPT or Mohe's slides and also mine. So the language I'm going to use on the slide will be some Bahasa and some English if you don't mind. So the first thing that what we're going to do is we're going to go through a bit of history, since when we've been doing this, and I'm going to zoom into on Akri Award for Innovative Curriculum. My colleagues, Dr. Lim, Dr. Ma'an, and Dr. Shariza will do the rest, and then we will probably look at the current application form, which I'm sure will be revised, and look at some of the winning attributes and common pitfalls among applicants. And then we can have a Q&A, inshallah. So in terms of what we've been doing, actually we started this award since 2017. We started it with Anugerah Pemikiran and Reka Bentuk Semula. We call it APRS in 2017, and then we rebranded within a year to Akri 2018, and we have 2019 also Akri, but we did not have one in 2020, but I'm sure Mohe is actually planning for another one this year. So it's good to have this session because IIUM, like I said to Dr. Asmawati this morning, I think you've got lots of potential because you've got a lot of uniqueness, and you can highlight all those in even in all categories. So this was in 2018. If we look at the curriculum, innovative curriculum category, we had UTM, actually we won UITM, UMMU, and UTM winning this award. So from UITM, it was then the Film, Theatre and Animation faculty who won the award. Of course, MMU was their program on multimedia. And then we had in 2019, we have Taylor's as the winner for the curriculum award. Taylor's again for the second place, and third place was USIM. So if you look at USIM, is Sarjana Counseling, something like that. So that's where I, like I said, IIUM has really a lot of potential in this category, right? So basically when we conceptualize this award, we are thinking of having innovative and of value, something of value, and doing things better, and of course better if it's going beyond the normal. So we looking at something that's engaging to keep the students coming back to you for that program, and having it as meaningful in terms of their experience in learning, and of course effective in terms of who they become at the end of the program. So the process is simple. We've got documents. You can download it from the ministry website. And of course, the main thing when applying, the evidence, all the evidences in all the sections that you have to fill in will have to be there. And after you have applied and you submit the application, we will evaluate. So we will have 2-3 day session kind of thing doing the evaluation. We have more than one person evaluating one program. That means your program submission will be evaluated by 3 or 4 people, 2 or 3 people, and we we have a finalist kind of list, and this finalist will go to the finals for pitching. So it will take a month or so to do this. Of course, the application will for the past 2 years, we give about a month, more than a month, 2 months, I think, to prepare before the deadline. So let me just share. This is what we do, the number of people involved, and the people who are involved. The reason why I showed this picture is that so that you can see we are from different universities. There are also someone from the industry, like Cik Megat, and we have lecturers or professors from research university, comprehensive university, and so on. So of course, when the submission from tailors, Prof. David will not be looking at it, so he will not be evaluating that, or even if there's one from UITM, I will not look at it. So we do that to make sure of the integrity of the process, right? Okay, so innovative curriculum categories. So what is it? We are looking for, when you talk about curriculum, we all know what curriculum is. You are better than me maybe in terms of your, of course, of your own program curriculum. So we are looking at the design of the curriculum based on the outcome. So there's always the outcome in mind. So the focus is basically, when we look at the curriculum, is that person, the one who's going to graduate from the program. So we are not looking at curriculum something like forensic or whatever that sounds so sophisticated, and then looking at the that particular graduate. But it can be just a very simple one. Somebody was telling me, can I just submit a CJIL program at the level of certificate? I said, no, this is not a problem to us at the ministry, because we want to look at the end of the program, what happens to this person. So the content of the curriculum and how it is being implemented is the one that we're looking for. So packaging the content with the innovative pedagogy and delivery, of course, and assessment, that's the one that we are looking. And of course, we expect when you forward your curriculum, we can see the interactive and conducive learning environment that you are providing to the students. So basically, when we look at what we call reka bentuk curriculum, we are looking at innovative design or redesign of the curriculum. So it doesn't have to be something really new, but you know, education 4.0 and IR 4.0, whatever coming in, you think you need to redesign the curriculum. So you redesign, and you think this will produce or already produce or potentially will produce future-proof graduates. So that's the main thing that we're looking for. So future-proof graduates in bahasa, I think they use it as graduan kalis masa depan or something like that. Meaning, when your student graduate from your program, you place him anywhere in the world, he or she can actually function and serve whatever organization or community that he is serving, based on that education that you give him through that curriculum. So if you can see that, then you're a winner, inshallah. Okay, so this is from GPT in Bahasa. It is written this way. I'm just going to share it with you. Actually, I have already mentioned that merangkumi pedagogi yang inovatif, pentaksiran alternatif, persekitaran pembelajaran kondusif, interaktif. So we want to see students who are creative, critical in thinking, also analytic, in a way that he or she will be responsive to the changes and the needs of the country, and also at the global front. So that is the objective of the award. Basically, looking at the program that will actually show us, illustrate to us the design of curriculum that will produce this future-proof graduates. Okay, so sounds a bit theoretical still, tak apa. So what we're looking for will be program of any level. So it can be a certificate, like I said, diploma, degree, postgraduate studies. So we can go for doctoral, in fact. It can be coursework or mixed mode, so that we can see the curriculum that you have designed for the program. So of course, we will look at the aims, the goals, the program educational objective. We all know that. We all know the CLO, PLO, PO kind of thing. So you have your program outcome, and then we look at the subject matter, how it actually being supporting the outcome, and also how you design the students' learning experience throughout the 3-4 years or 3 years of the program, and how the students will be evaluated, and the assessment as well, to see whether that outcome can actually be achieved, or you better still, you have evidence that it has been achieved in the form of students who have graduated. All right, but no worry, if you don't have students who have not graduated, you can still submit, because like I said, we also look at for the potential of that program to produce these future-proof graduates. Okay, so this is the syarat. Like I said, at the moment, we only limit the applications to only 2 per institution. Of course, I at UiTM I have been begging Kementerian to let us submit more, because we have like 400 programs, and we have like 12,000 courses and so on. So, but still the limit is still 2. We have not revised that. So I'm sure IUM can easily find 2 good programs to submit, right? So, okay. In terms of, let's go back to 2019. For example, we have in 2018, we have less. So in 2019, we had 19 applications for curriculum. We evaluated 16 because 3 were considered not eligible because of 1, late submission. You must be aware that the ministry, Kementerian JPT, in fact, they are very strict on the deadline. They go down to the last minute, meaning when they say 5 p.m., you cannot come in at 5:02 p.m. and said, I'm only 2 minutes late. They will not accept that. So that has been going on for the last 2-3 years. So please try as much not to submit it late. And of course, incomplete submission, this one in the form of the form not being signed by the VC or the institutional representative. There are also forms from before this that actually you did not fill in some sections and so on. So that will be incomplete. So you will not be evaluated. So we evaluated 16, and the evaluation criteria was based on basically this. Again, this was done last 2 years. It may change for this year, but it will not change much, right? So the first thing, I think this is a very important slide, where for the first part, we look at the rationale. Why are you redesigning, or why do you design it this way? You have to answer why. So basically, like so many things that we do in our everyday life, we answer the 1 husband and 4 wives, right? How, what, why, who, and so on. So answer why. Why do you need to design a curriculum, a counseling, for example, curriculum, a program for particular, like USIM that did for drugs, something like penyalahgunaan dadah or something like that, right? What is the philosophy of the design? You must have some philosophy, okay? What kind of kemenjadian are you expecting from the students, from the program graduates, right? So that one has to be clear. So if I were to take Taylor's, for example, the one that they won the year before, their engineering program was very how do I say, kind of personalized, because the students come in, they can decide into 3 tracks. So they have a philosophy for that, because maybe we can take it as a personalized or individualized pathway for the student. Okay, so that is important. Okay. The other one, the next one, that's about 10%. Oh, sorry, I have a typo there. It's not exclamation mark. It's supposed to be 10%. The approach. How do you go about designing this curriculum? So this is a very lengthy process, actually, not lengthy, but it should be a very rigorous process. So who do you bring in? The students? Do you ask alumni? Do you ask the current students? Do you ask the industry? Do you even ask the community if the program is basically meant for, very related to community kind of thing? So you need to show that, and you need to show us what the committee does, how many, the kind of meetings, the kind of focus group, the kind of brainstorming, and you need to have them chart out nicely. So that will be the approach, right? So you can come in with tilers and so on, you know a lot about curriculum development. You can use some of the models. You have your own model base. You can also, that will be very good. That goes into approach. So the next one, the involvement, again, who, the stakeholder, the alumni, the student voice, that we need to see that as well. And used to be, we look at quadruple helix. Now we have quintuple helix. So we want to see the universities coming in with programs that are basically aware of what's happening at the moment. So if you come in, you talk about this program being redesigned because we want to address these 5 things in this quintuple helix and so on. So we involve the government, we involve the industry, the society, the environment, not to forget the environment, and that will be, I would say, very impressive lah. So of course, the bulk of the evaluation will be the impact. So you're going to say, how do we show impact when we have not have students graduated from the program? But we can also see some form of, percentage enrollment. We look at how competitive it is. People don't go to other universities for this program, but people are coming to your university for this program. You've won awards, students have won awards, lecturers from the program won awards. I mean, related to the program, of course. If they have graduated, we want to look at graduate employability, whether students are can be self-employed, and on top of that, you can have graduate satisfaction survey. You can have learning experience survey, and a lot more. So 40% over there. So we have 10, 30, 20, 40, 100% evaluation criteria. Okay, exciting, isn't it? Anyway, so when we had the with JBT, we were looking at some of the things that we were looking at some of the things that universities did. So we listed a few. So we suggest lah, yeah, the highlight should be on the objective, the approach, of course. How is it innovative when we look at compare it with a conventional program? For example, if I'm redesigning my bachelor in education, how innovative is my new program design compared to the one that I have now, right? Maybe right now I only have the practicum at the end, but my new program, I have field experience during break and so on, something as one of the element that's new, for example. And of course, what kind of benchmarking that you have done. Again, let me just reiterate, industry linkage, industry modules coming in, right? Now we can open our program to not only our lecturers teaching, we can even have people from the industry with their modules, internship, talent exchange, mobility, of course, and teaching factory, facilities and resources that you have that support your program, alumni support, and of course the community and special impact. So in the impact category, like I said, we want to see how industry ready are your students, right? If they have graduated, we can get the tracer assessment, and like I said again, learning experience and so on. Okay, so the application form is downloadable from the website, but for now, this is for 2019. So at the moment, the application form is in the form of a Word document. So what applicants did for last year was to fill in the form and have links from the form to your Google Drive and so on. Some actually printed out all the evidence and place it at the back, have it in very nice folders. Some submitted more than one file and so on. But I'm not going to talk a lot about the application form because I am quite sure the ministry will revise this. But if you go to the website now, you can type Akri 2019, you can easily download the last application form and you can go through that application form. So we can just take a look, I think, for what? Okay, for example, I have it here. I hope you can see it. Okay, so we have the maklumat institusi is in bahasa, and maklumat program, pusat, and so on. Then we have the rationale. What is the rationale of the program? Jelaskan falsafah penggubalan. If you have the matrix or whatever, jadual, whatever you can bring in. So we ask how will the change actually brings value to the to the students, all right? And all those things that I've mentioned just now, you're going to put in to the, we also ask bagaimana kurikulum pembelajaran berpusatkan pelajar dilaksanakan. So for example, what kind of theory you use, what kind of approach that you are bringing in, and the kind of kaedah that shows student-centered or learner-centeredness in the program. Okay, so for the past year, we ask people to place them in Google Drive or dalam portfolio bercetak, right? So for the evidence, right? And then we need your assessment, of course. Your this one is pelaksanaan penyampaian. There are two forms at the back that we give so that you can put in the assessment, and we look at engagement, right? Then the resources as well. Okay, this is one part that we also ask for in terms of pemegang taruh. So we want to look at MOU, MOA, letter of support, mobility, inbound, outbound kind of things that you're doing for that program. Okay, so can do that, download that and take a look at that, right? So now, maybe we look at some of the winning attributes first. Those who have won, these are the things that were illustrated in the submission and also in the program lah, yeah? So for example, we've got people winning because they showed us this multidisciplinary approach that they take when redesigning the program. Okay. Of course, the pathways and multi-tracks that I mentioned just now, students come in, is a broad-based kind of thing, and then they get to choose which pathway they want to take. They can take the conventional pathway, they can take the apprentice kind of pathway. I'm just suggesting some of the things, right? And we have programs winning because of the industry on campus kind of thing that they do. You bring industry on campus. industry people, like you have industry modules for the students. Students are actually taught by people from the industry, and it is well designed into the curriculum. It's not something that you decide, okay lah, this semester I'm going to call in someone to talk to my students. Not the kind of thing. You have that already in the curriculum. Okay, and we see optimal community and industry involvement not only early in the program, in the design of the program, but also throughout the program. So also we've seen, we look out for people who want, we see internship and apprenticeship for the students. Flexibility is one. Award, they've won award. Students have won award. Students place second in the world, for example, for this particular program, for some exam taken for this particular program, for example. Of course, at the end, we see that holistic attribute of the program that will actually produce this graduate who will not only be able to be contributing to the what shall we say, the working part of life, but also that person who will contribute to society and community. So we need to look at all the 11 MQA domains lah, yes? Okay, anyway, not nice, but let's talk about the pitfall. For example, why you did not make it. People did, applications were not listed as finalists because basically weak rationale for the redesign. We don't understand why you're doing this. This is nothing new or something like that. And very less scientific in terms of approach. It is not evidence-based. In the form, there are a lot of text. It's just like reading a cerpen, a short story, but we were trying our best to find what are the uniqueness or what are the elements that's new or that's innovative. So the narrative, the flow of argument, if it's weak, is not going to help, because we couldn't find the whatever that you are trying to do. So sometimes we got lots of activities described in the design, but we don't see which outcome are you addressing. So the first one, you need clarity. Oh, sorry, again, typo, clarity of purpose in terms of the design and redesign. Okay, the second part, the pitfall will be the unclear development of the curriculum. So when you have that theory into practice kind of thing, so the framework is not clear. So we see, the design was not basically on the curriculum. It was just basically on one of the delivery, kaedah pengajaran. So in fact, there were many that focus too much on the delivery. So we had that problem with some of the submission. And the third one is in terms of innovation. So innovativeness, lack of understanding about curriculum innovation. So the innovation was not apparent and not much difference from the existing program. So maybe we are suggesting take a design thinking kind of approach kind of thing. Engineering people at IUM for sure can do that very well. So you bring in why you innovate, the emphatic element and so on should be there lah. Okay, so that's the part of it. Also, in terms of technicalities, sorry to say, but when we the one that we found very illuminating, very good, is because the way the evidence are well curated in the submission. So sometimes problem is we couldn't find the evidence. It was not attached. It was not, sometimes not relevant. When we click on it, we see something else. And at one time we have lots of link to Google Drive not functioning. So I think we are going to revise that idea of Google Drive, because some of our applicants actually did not put the actual link, but put a snapshot of the link, so we couldn't click on your link. So our Urus Setia had to type every part of the Google the link. It was not even shortened, so it was really bad lah. All right. Anyway, I hope that will not happen anymore. And the form not signed, not stamped, inaccurate keywords or terms used. When we want to look at the approach, you use a different, you know, it looks like as if you do not understand the process of the curriculum. That's the worst way of saying it lah, right? So lengthy description but lack pertinent points. Okay, and lots of MOU, MOA, but it did not illustrate activities related to curriculum development or implementation, and also lack emphasis on stakeholder engagement. So when we go to pitching, we had a few comments from the judges. When we pitch, we are not focused on the significant or the unique characteristics of the program. We got only about a few, how many, 10, 20 minutes. You need to use good use of the time to highlight the uniqueness of the program and not to give all the other, you know, things that's not, that's common, but and you're taking time. So by the end of it, you have not come up to the part where you want to highlight the impact and so on. And also we also had instances when we ask questions, the presenter was not able to provide answers proper. You provided answers, but not good enough answers for the question posed. That was one of the comments from the judges. Okay, so this is what we've listed in our by JPT, which is basically what I've just mentioned just now, is in Bahasa. And oh, okay. So we've gone through the history, we've gone through the process, we've gone through the evaluation criteria, we've looked at some winning attributes, and we have gone through the pitfalls. So I guess it's time for question and answer. So I'm going to just stop sharing and maybe get some answers from the audience. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you, Prof, for the very enlightening sharing from Prof from the previous application. Okay. So if there is any question from the audience, you can type on the chat box. Okay. And I will read your question to Prof.
Normally, they don't have much question for curriculum because it takes curriculum. The category for curriculum is not a one person kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the whole department, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So normally when I have this session, people don't ask a lot because they have to thinking, I have to go back to the faculty and look at this and so on. But for the other categories, it's more individual, so they will have more questions on that. I don't mind. I mean, I understand that maybe people need some time to look at their curriculum.
I just have how to say when you explain everything, I just wonder because the application will come from different how to say the program.
Yes.
Yeah, different faculties. So how is it, I mean, in terms of the evaluation, you're going to differentiate between the engineering programs, non-engineering programs?
Oh, we have no issue because we only look at the outcomes. So even if it's engineering, you have all these facilities, let's say the latest whatever facilities, but you the applicant, for example, did not manage to show how that is put to good use to produce your graduates, you cannot win. But you can have a very simple program, maybe like I said, Bachelor in Education, not much high-end facility. We don't use drones or whatever, but the way you design the curriculum actually produce that good teacher. So whether it's arts or social science or SNT, it doesn't matter to us, to evaluators, because we look at the program outcomes. Okay, so if the program, for example lah ya, ni tipu-tipu, let's say it's a medic program, then we look, of course we need to look at the resources. But if it's another program, let's say educational leadership, I don't need a high-end tech-based lab or so whatever, because it's educational leadership. So we will not look at that kind of resources, but we will look at how do you bring in educational leaders into the program to make sure first in the beginning and maybe throughout the program to actually contribute to the program outcome. Do you bring in people, because it's educational leadership, so how do you handle issues, the latest issues? How do students go to different government departments ke? I don't know, I'm just main-main je lah ni. So that's the way we look at it. So we are not saying, kenapa? Why are these people not using robots in their program? Because they don't need to use robots there, for example. So the outcome is, the program outcome must be aligned to what you have designed. So that's the main thing. Doesn't matter whether it's CJL ke, you can win at CJL actually, in CJL level, certificate level as well.
So when you explained that as well, I was wondering, so you have a CGL application and then a degree application, they're all compared together, they are under the same category.
Yeah.
Okay.
No issue, don't worry about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have the past winners, we have undergrads, we have postgrads as well, winning. And we have social sciences, and we also have SNT. But the thing is, as we go through the years, for example, before this we were very impressed, let's say, with tailors, because they place their students very early, their hospitality students very early with the good the multinational chain, hotel punya chain, for example. We were very impressed. Now if someone bring in that kind of design, we'll be less impressed lah, because you understand or not, because of the currency of the situation. We need to see maybe more than that lah. It's still good, but someone has done it before, and you have to bring in something unique. Like I said, IIUM, you have this Akri Nakli kind of thing that is very unique, that you can actually use. I'm giving hints lah. Okay.
So hopefully later, because I'm just joining back IIUM in 2018, so I haven't heard a lot about
okay. All
this
right,
award.
Dr. Ma'anus.
Yeah, but I think it is maybe something that really we have to look into. Maybe will help us as well in the development of our curriculum, so that we know that there's a kind of award, so we have to design our curriculum.
Yes.
We focus on this as well, instead of just designing the curriculum. So I
think it's okay, even if the rationale is, if you see that people are not coming into your program, instead they're going to somewhere else, and you redesign based on that, that is also that's okay. I mean, we accept that. But how do you redesign to make sure it is now, when you rebrand the curriculum, it is now more attractive to students, to parents? For example, we used to have in my university, when we rebrand the program, we gave them, program names that parents got, like not only appalled, they were like, what will our kids be working as? Because when we look at the program title, they got like, a lot of things can happen lah. So when you redesign, you can even look at the number of the name of the program. It can also be an innovative kind of thing. It illustrates maybe two multidisciplinary approach and so on. Boleh insyaAllah. IUM boleh.
InsyaAllah. Right. So I don't see any question.
It's okay, Doctor. I understand because the last time pun macam ni. People need to go back to their faculty and talk about it before they come back to you or they come back to CPD, siapa yang the one who organised this, and have more questions.
Okay. So actually, Prof, I have one more, if you don't mind, since we don't have
I'm okay.
from the audience. It's about the MOU and MOA. So you said there could be lots of, that program have so many MOAs, for example, but it doesn't really relate to the activities of the students. So I wonder if you can clarify that more, because
okay. Sometimes we have universities or programs, faculties, they sign a lot of MOUs. So in the application form, they listed all the MOUs, right, that they have signed. So we want to see activities that actually clearly showing that this MOU actually support some of the students' learning experience or outcome. Okay, for example, you have MOU with, let's say, a university in Indonesia, for example, and then you sign, and then you show us activities of your lecturers going to Indonesia and have a symposium. So we are not so, this not very clear what, and then the symposium is maybe not even on the very directly related to the program. So maybe it's for another program. So that kind of thing. So that's why we said a lot of MOUs have been listed, but we don't see the clear link to the program. So if you do MOU and the program students mobility increase for that program, or you have lecturers from that university teaching for your program due to MOU, something like that, or even maybe sharing of something, not only resources in terms of lecturers, but maybe for other things as well, or activities. You have global kind of activities among the universities that you have MOU with, where your students participated with all the other students from the other universities, that will increase their, global mindedness or something like that. That will be good. So we don't want to see a lot of MOU lists and not see that kind of
activity.
Yes.
For example, let's say my program, we have MOU with an industry, and then one of the activity is that we have like 2 students, for example, doing industrial training over there. So that's the kind of activity that you are looking into.
Better still more students lah, not only a few students. Yeah, you have, okay, for example, I think if I remember this right, Mr. Lim maybe can correct me, they had MOUs with all the hotels, right? So students go to all these hotels. So it's very clear the kind of MOUs that you have with the industry. So you don't just sign something and then, ambil gambar and then you list it as part of the evidence, and we don't see, okay, what was done after that? That's our question.
Yes, yeah, because sometimes we heard lots of MOUs or MOA signed, but at the end they're not active anyway.
Exactly. It happens everywhere.
Right. Okay, so thank you, Prof, for the sharing and also for answering my questions. So I think we can invite the second speaker.
Yeah, I will forward the slide to Nurul. So
yes.
just in case, all right.
Sister Nurul can email everyone interested.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Prof. Okay, so before we move on to our next speaker, I would like to make one announcement where we will have an evaluation form. Okay, evaluation form. So please answer this evaluation form. So to those who answer this evaluation form, you will be given a CPD point and also e-certificate. Okay, so the secretariat, the CPD will make the link available later for the evaluation form. Okay, so we move on to our second speaker, which is Dr. Shahriza Muhammad Sharif. And he will talk about the second category in Akri, which is the pengajaran transformatif. Okay, Dr. Shahriza is a lecturer at the Faculty of Fisheries and Food Science, University Malaysia Terengganu. His research interest is on genetic improvement of aquaculture species through breeding and molecular approaches. And in 2019, he was awarded the Anugerah Akademik Negara kategori Anugerah Pengajaran Kelompok Sains Gunaan. Right, so very impressive, our speaker. So I pass the floor to you, Dr. Shahriza. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Hasmawati. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all of you, to the committee and also to participants. Thank you for joining, and to Center for Professional Development. Thank you for inviting me and giving this opportunity for me to share a bit about Akri for Transformative Teaching category. So let me share my slide. Okay, first I need to check first. Can you hear my voice clearly? Yeah?
Yes.
All right. Okay, and can you see the slide?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ask for Allah's strength to ease this presentation, in the hope that all of the participants would have the ease in understanding the content, and hope that this can assist in your preparation to represent IIUM for this coming Akri 2021. So I'll be sharing regarding transformative teaching category. So just a bit of background. Alhamdulillah, I was granted by Allah to have this opportunity to receive the first transformative teaching category, Johan, in 2017. At that time, it was APRS. Okay? And one of the panel is the panel that we'll talk afterward. That is Associate Professor Dr. Ma'an, who was assessing my project. Then I was invited as a panel in 2018 as well as 2019. So based on the experience, I hope I would be able to share some of the things related to this transformative teaching category. But let me give you what transformative teaching is for Akri. Well, this is focusing on delivery. That means it is focused on the lecturer or the educator. Means that it looks into the teaching method, either in the form of you giving lectures through interactive lectures, not passive, or without lectures. How do you say without lectures? Well, you can be present there, but you are not there to talk and give lectures on your topic. So some might be asking, so we need to zip our mouth? No, afterward I will explain. So it focuses on the teaching method with the purpose to increase student involvement. That means a transformation from the normal lecture base where the student just sit there and listen to your talk, but it transforms into an active engagement, either between the students or between the educator and the student, or in the triangulation. And the criteria is that the method is proven to achieve at least one learning outcome. We know that in certain courses, we have more than one course learning outcome. So it does not mean that the method must be able to achieve all the learning outcome that is available or present in your course. So it can be targeted for only one. So when we talk about lecture and non-lecture, what does it mean? Now, in transformative teaching category, they are not divided into two. It is still one category, but the method that you want to show or to share can be either in a transformative way of lecture, means that your method is still based on lecture, you give the lecture, but there is an element where highly participatory of the students during that lecture. Okay, it can be where you have a discussion, it can be you have a game, okay? You give a certain 10 minutes talk, and then you start to have an interaction using either kids or online activities. Now, these are what it is meant by a true method using lecture. Now, non-lecture means that you might be present there, but you act either as a coach or a facilitator. In order for them to acquire that particular skill or knowledge, you are there to facilitate their learning. Your design enables them to learn and understand the topic even without you being there to explain every single thing of that particular topic. Okay, you might be there to channel and guide the student, okay, based on your design, but the student will learn among themselves or by themselves and acquire that particular intended learning outcome. Well, how does this transformative teaching category evaluated? Now, there are four major components. We look into rational, composed of 10% out of the total marks. We look at the approach. Okay, how do you do it? How do you execute your method? That comprises of 40%. And then we looked into student involvement. Okay, that accounts for 20%, and the effectiveness of the project, the impact of the project, either towards the student attainment of the learning outcome or to the transformation of the course by itself. That means from that method, apart from the student attain the course learning outcome, you were able to transform how the modules being presented in the course. So let us look at each particular thing. Now, rational. You will be given a form to fill in. Currently, since there is no changes yet, or we haven't been informed about anything, my presentation is based on the previous form in 2019. So any one of you candidate from IIUM who would like to apply, you can apply individual or by group. So it can be two ways to apply this for this category. Now, the first thing that you need to put in is your rationale. So what is the main issue or problems that sparks your thinking, your urge to initiate this project? Now, when I mention here project, means that your teaching method, your teaching approach. Okay? And what is the objective of your project? Now, if you look into this, the other one is related to student approach. So is your approach aligned to the, either you are targeting for all course learning outcome in your course or a particular course learning outcome? The project, your approach must be aligned. If it is not aligned, you will be getting less mark. Okay? And we also look into the novelty, how original your approach. Is it just the use of the current method that is already available, or you redesign a new one, or you modify from an existing method? I will explain this later when we go along. And we will also want to see, is your approach is based on a certain learning theories. Okay, it's not about shock sendiri, but do you base on a certain theory or learning method that has been existed before? And you need to explain your instructional design, how the steps of that approach is designed to see the student go through the steps and attain the course learning outcome. Okay, the third one, student involvement. What does it mean? Is your method able to engage student either cognitively? That means they need to think, they immerse themselves, okay, trying to solve problems or too engrossed with your method that they sleep, they eat, for example, always thinking about it, but not up to the extent, just to exaggerate, to highlight the point. Or it increases their involvement in terms of cognitive or changes in their behavior. Before this, your approach is too passive that you cannot see their involvement. But now you can see changes in their behavior. They are more excited, they are more motivated to try to acquire the knowledge that you are trying to deliver based on your approach. Okay? And the effective aspects of them. So your method can either be increasing the involvement for cognitive, or changes in their behavior, or changes in their affection, or the whole thing. That depends on how you see the effect of your approach to the students. And we want to see the evidence. Some, they say that students are highly engaged, active learning occurs, but no evidence are being provided. So we cannot see the reality, or whether is it true that high participation occurs or exists in your approach. And the last aspect is the impact. So effects toward the student learning, okay, in terms of their results. It can be in terms of changes in the motivation, or maybe addition, changes in their soft skill. You don't intend to focus on, for example, communication, but your method, apart from increasing the attainment of the intended learning outcome, for example, you want them to have the skill for critical thinking, But at the same time, you notice that your method also improve students' communication skills and teamwork. Even though these two soft skills are not in the focus of your learning outcome, but you can see that there are improvements in them on these two aspects. So these are the impacts that you can explain when you prepare your document. Now, another thing in the impact is that the ability of your project to be spread or to be used for other users. Either it can be used for other courses or for other fields, other programs, and the impacts in terms of benefit, cost. It can be time, it can be benefit to the stakeholder. We look into this matter once I give you some example. Okay, this is the question that you need to answer when you prepare your document. You can check this in the website. It is available. So this is what you need to fill up. Okay, what are the challenges or issues that initiate this project, and what is the objective? So when you want to highlight this, how do you put, or what are the points that you need to consider? Now, in terms of this, I would like to highlight, because these are also discussed and highlighted among the panels. In some of the candidates, they put there, one of the challenges is, I find that when I teach, students sleep, or the subject is so boring, okay? And I feel that there is no fun in my teaching. That is not the main challenge. Okay? Challenge is more significant when you relate. For example, you notice that through your teaching, students still couldn't attain the course learning outcome. Only 20% able to achieve that, whereas the others are still having problems to achieve the course learning outcome. That can be a good issues or challenge. Apart from that, maybe you say, even though my method, the current method, was able to achieve the student learning outcome, but it does not prepare them for the future skill. So you're trying to develop a new method in which, apart from them achieve the course learning outcome, but the other aspects towards the course learning outcome is more desired and is more focused for you to concentrate in improving them. So these are the things that you need to put. So the objective, it can be to improve the attainment of the course learning outcome, or to increase the ability of the student's soft skill in certain areas. Okay? So it depends on you, but not to improve, to transform the boringness of your subject into a more fun way. So that is not. We are looking into a more scholarly perspective when you write up this thing. Okay, let me give you some guidance for your preparation. When you talk about rationale and relevance, so rationale and relevance can be, you are trying to improve the subject to suit to a certain standards. Some programs, you need to attain or achieve a certain qualification or standard. So current method was could not enable this particular program to attain that intended standard. So now you need to change. Maybe, for example, in the future or previously, MQA or your professional body for the program impose a certain standard, and now you need to adjust. So due to that, the approach need to be adjusted, need to be improved, need to be modified to attain that. That can be a good rationale. And you provide the evidence for that. Or maybe you said that your method is trying to improve or prepare the student, okay, to attain the course learning outcome that also can prepare them for the future job skills. Or previously, your teaching method could not be able to be more effective to achieve a certain level or learning domain. So these are some explanation that you can put up that is more significant compared to when you say that the class is too passive, the class is too boring, there's no fun, there are others. Okay, in terms of rationale and relevance, you can look up into World Economic Forum. Now, why I'm highlighting this is not for you to just, oh, okay, these are the tips to create a more good rationale. No. These are the things that you can refer to, because it's not in the purpose of you trying to increase the mark. Akri is not about trying to manipulate things to increase so that you can get higher marks. Akri is about sharing of your best practices. Now, we all know that a lot of lecturers, they are not lecturers who graduated with education. Most of us, they don't have diploma in education. They don't graduate in degree in education. They graduate in pure science degree program, or maybe in a pure social science degree program. But their passion, their method is suited to a certain learning theories. But because they don't dwell into all those educational terms, they might not be aware. So have a look in the World Economic Forum. Most probably, some of your initiative is actually related. Once you look here, then maybe you can say, yeah, actually this is the one that I'm currently doing. So when you see that there is a relevance of the things that you do with the future job skills, then you can add it up. But don't intently create it just to increase your mark. Be truthful and be sincere. So this is for 2022. If you look into World Economic Forum, top 10 skills of 2025, these are the top 10 skills for the future. So maybe your approach is aligned to the future skills. So these are the things that you can add up if your method really in line with all these things. So these are the justification that has more weightage compared to just, as I've mentioned just now, informed that this subject is too boring. I find myself so boring. By the time I came to the class, the student sleeps, even though I didn't open up the computer. No, please don't put that thing. Okay? There are more scholarly way of you trying to explain your problem. Okay, try to improve the knowledge, the points, so that you put the right points. Actually, you have it, but some of you, I understand, based on my experience and with my colleagues, they don't have a lot of jargon and term in terms of teaching and learning. So they couldn't find the exact thing. So have a look. This is my advice. Okay. So far, is it okay? So good? Couldn't feel the chat. Okay. The second one, or the next one, is this project aligned to your course learning outcome? Please answer them precisely. Is it aligned? Show at which part that this approach aligns to. Which course learning outcome are you focusing? So provide the evidence. Now the other one is your initiative, your teaching method, is it original, novel, or is it an adaptation from others? Now, the question is, how do I know that mine is novel? How do I know that mine is original? Okay. What are the standard that you can use, or the comparison that you can use? Okay, you can look up into this. This is what we call as SAMR model, S-A-M-R. This model was created by Dr. Ruben Puentendra way back in 2016. There are a lot of videos explaining. Even he himself also gave a talk related to SAMR model. You can find them in YouTube. You can just search. You will find a lot of videos explaining about SAMR model. I might not be explaining well because I'm not the one who created that, but there are a lot of videos that you can refer to if you find my explanation is a bit confusing. But I'll try my best. Now, what is SAMR relates to? It started off with substitution. Now you can check back. Is your method a substitute from what you are previously doing? Example. Previously, I just give you this example. It might not be relevant 100%, very related, but hope that it can give you some idea. Previously, you prepare a video and you post to your student. Now, you post in YouTube. So you are just substituting your method from giving the videos to the students in the LMS, but now you are just putting up in the YouTube. So that is substitution. It's just changes in the platform. So that can be the basic things. But don't be afraid if your approach is at there's no novelty. You only get lower marks for that question, but there are higher marks on the other side. There are other marks. It's not the solely marks that is being evaluated. Or previously, you asked the student to write in a piece of paper for the report, but now you ask them to do in a Microsoft Word. Or better still, previously you are using Microsoft Word. Now you are asking them to prepare in Google Doc. So you are just using another platform. So this is substitution. Now, augmentation means that you add up some functional improvement. Take, for example, you are using currently Microsoft Word. Now you change into Google Doc. Apart from asking them to prepare a report in a Google Doc, you ask the student to prepare through collaborative method, because now it is in cloud-based, so the group can prepare the report online. So you add up that particular thing and you were able to give comment straight away. So that is augmentation. So you add in some improvement to the way the students send their report. Previously, they prepare, you don't know how they prepare, and they submit to you. But now, having the use of Google Doc, you were able to monitor. So you add up some function in which you can give comments and feedback to them prior to the student submitting the report to you. Modification means that Google Doc is normally used for preparing documents, but now you change them to become an interactive quiz. Google Doc is just to prepare a document. Now you modify them. Rather than preparing document, you're preparing them as a quiz or interactive sheet. and you incorporate a video and they watch it and they answer the question, it improves their learning and active involvement. So that is what modification is about. Redefinition is where you totally change. You are working together. For example, you prepare the document, you make it interactive, but at the same time, they prepare, they maybe submit to another in the social media, and they get comments from the industry, or the report was being posted and they need to get comments from the stakeholder or industry, and that particular report is a combination of thoughts, collaboration with others outside of the boundaries of the university, for example, or your course. So you already redefine it. It's not more than a report. It is made using other activities. Or, for example, in YouTube, previously, you post your videos in your LMS, but now you post your videos in YouTube. Apart from that, you modify and make them as a quiz. Better still, apart from you make them as a quiz where you incorporate the YouTube inside, for example, quizzes or add puzzle, now you gamify the YouTube. I don't know whether how many of you have heard that people gamify YouTube. YouTube is just a platform to watch videos, to curate content, to create content, but now you're using YouTube as a game-based learning. How to do that? Okay, if there's none, these are some of the ideas I can give to you. But not for this Akri, because I'm planning to provide a game-based learning just by using YouTube. Or redefinition means that you are using YouTube as your LMS. Have you ever thought about using YouTube as your LMS? Students submit their thoughts, students submit their assignment in a simple written form in the video comment section. You curate the content of the videos to make a learning environment for your subject. You are transforming the normal LMS, and now you're making YouTube as your LMS. Okay, so if nobody has done it before and you were the first person to do it, that is what we call as redefinition of YouTube. Because normally we thought, okay, YouTube is just to upload videos, to create a playlist, you want to share, you want to become edutubers, YouTuber. There are hundreds of people now becoming YouTubers. So it's not a new thing anymore. But how many people use YouTube as their LMS? Okay, as a teaching and learning, not just normal downloading videos. So when you do that, there's a totally redefinition. Okay, so that is what SAMR is all about. So you can use that to check your originality or your novelty of the product. Okay, some of the things, some candidate, maybe they are excited because previously they don't have knowledge in the use of Web 2.0. For example, the use of Padlet. For the past 5 years, they are just using the normal way, but suddenly they learn Padlet, now they transform. So they feel that, yes, it's a transformation. I transform my class into using Padlet, and the student involvement is high. It helps me to attain the course learning outcome. Okay, it's good, but be mindful, Padlet is normal to other people. So there's no new thing. If you have something that you want to share, make sure what is the uniqueness of your use of Padlet compared to other people who also use Padlet in their teaching and learning. That is, I hope, to give some motivation to some of you, because sometimes in another aspect, we feel that Padlet is normal. Everybody is using it. But you didn't notice that the way you use Padlet is totally different from other people. So if you have that, don't feel demotivated or downhearted. That is your potential. Because don't look at Padlet by itself. If you have done something different which other people haven't used it before, then that is your strength. So this is the way I use my Padlet. Even though Padlet is normal, my approach is totally different from other approach. It has never been done before by any educator. So these are the things that you need to look. Discuss with your peers, ask other people to ensure that what you have is something unique or different from others. Okay, the next one is, what is the learning theories that form the basis of your approach? So you must relate that. Are you using cognitivism learning theories? Are you using social learning theories, behaviorism learning theories, constructivism learning theories, okay, or any other learning theories that you use? And please inform if you use any types of project-based learning, problem-based learning, okay, pedagogy, or any other peer learning, pedagogy. So put that inside and explain a bit, how does that learning approach and theory relates to your approach. Now, E4 is your instructional design. You must show the step, how this thing will be done in the classroom. Okay, and these are some of the weaknesses when some of the candidates submit, because they didn't show the process. So we cannot see how this thing is being executed in the classroom or either in online. Okay, so related to that, your learning design, your process or step that the student needs to go through in your method, and duration. How long? Is it for one semester or for 2 weeks? You must state that. Okay, because some of the candidate didn't put up that duration. Some we found out that after gone through, it is only applied for one session of tutorial, a 2-hour tutorial session. So things crop up. Is it enough? The approach coming to the class during the tutorial session, 2-hour tutorial session, course learning outcome attained. So be clear of the duration. How long does it take for your approach to be implemented and for you to look at the attainment of the course learning outcome of the objective? So this is what I meant just now. How the student learn. Is it they learn by doing? Does it incorporate collaborative learning or peer learning? These are the things that the term you need to add inside them. And evidence in terms of student results, student reflection. Reflection can be in WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. If you have done any survey analysis, and compile all the pictures and the video of the activities. So back to what I said just now, this one, evidence, okay, student involvement. How far is the student involvement in your approach? Now this you need to explain and show evidence, the videos, pictures, start to take pictures and start to find and collect back all the pictures that you have taken before. So that's where they put here, provide evidence, okay, that shows the changes in behavior, their motivation, their eagerness, their passion to try to produce the best when you were implementing this approach. You can see changes inside them, changes in their cognitive, their thinking. Yeah. So it can be in a logbook if they have, it can be in their portfolio. I know some of you ask students to prepare a portfolio to track their progress. So you can use that as your evidence. Okay. Discussion. Sometimes when you do activities, you track to the discussion. For example, during this online, I normally created a subgroup of my lab group. So from there, all the WhatsApp that they use for each group that they discuss, so we keep track of that. And that can be also evidence to show that my method requires them to be active in their learning process. So if you are trying to present the method related to online, so use a lot of, like if you're using WhatsApp, Instagram, that shows them discussing as your evidence. Okay, bear in mind when I say online, for transformative teaching, it does not necessarily must be the cutting edge technology only will be considered for this transformative teaching. No. Anything that transforms, the keyword just now that I mentioned, any transformative teaching that changes or increase student involvement, high participation, there is a triangulation, active participation between the student and between the educator and the student. It can be in a face-to-face method, it can be in online method. So for those of you currently now because of COVID, you might feel left behind because you cannot implement, don't worry. This is not about to see the current method. If you have some method in your pocket that is so effective being implemented in the classroom, okay, years ago, and since this year we are having Akri again compared to last year, there's no Akri, put it up. We are not looking at the latest method. This Akri, I don't know yet, but as far as we know, Akri is not about who is the best online transformative teaching. No. Right? You have seen just now, we want to see whether your approach is related to the course learning outcome, any learning theories that you adopt, and is your method effective in helping the student in their learning process. So those are the things that is considered in this transformative teaching category. Okay, so again, the student, the evidence that you need to add up. All right, impact. So how far your approach creates impact to the student learning. So this you can put up student marks, previous and current, how many percent attain, the percentage of the student attain the course learning outcome. You can make comparison. You can provide evidence in terms of their reflection, their work, their report can also be used to show that, okay, previously it was like this. With your method, they have improved their writing skills, so on and so forth. Okay, and how does your approach increase student motivation? Again, evidence in terms of reflection, pictures, and how far your approach can be applied to other areas. So this is up to you. Don't feel sad, or it's not the proper word. Don't feel negative, or you say that, oh, my approach is only for my class. It's okay. Because marks are being given not solely on that, right? If your approach is so effective, it's so engaging, the impact is very high, doesn't matter if, oh, okay, I can only use it in my particular field. You just put it up. Remember, the focus is on sharing the best practices. While you are presenting it, it might not show that it can be spread. But who knows, when you present your work, then people start to think and wanted to adopt your approach, and they start contacting you to discuss. So that's a good thing, because the spirit of Akri is sharing of the best practices, even though it looks like a competition. And this one, how far does your approach impacts in terms of benefit, in terms of cost, time, okay, sustainability, and also stakeholder. Okay, I'm going to the final part. What are the common weaknesses that can be seen based on a previous candidate submitting their form? Now, one is the novelty. The novelty is low. As I told you just now, some they just learn to use, I give you one example so that to make you understand. Some they just learn to use Padlet, and suddenly they see changes, in which we know that once you use Padlet, you can see changes in the student, but he or she just noticed that, hey, if I use this, there's a change in the student's motivation. But the approach is similar, it's not new. So it is already an existing method. So these are some of the things that leads to a lower mark. And a lot of the time, some of the candidates show a very novel idea or a very original idea, but in their write-up, they were not able to portray the uniqueness of the method. So we cannot see, and the way they write in such a way that when we look at it, oh, this is normal. So need to think of the uniqueness, and you must write it clearly to show so that the panel can see the in-thing of your approach compared to the others. Now, focus of the project. Now, some method, the focus is not on the student. Bear in mind, Akri is related to higher learning student. Okay, so as just now, like Prof. Azhar said, it can be for postgraduate, it can be for undergraduate, but not for school children, and not for other communities, community of a certain daerah, community for a certain kampung. No, the approach must be for the student. But don't get confused when I say that, because there are approach where, in order to improve the student learning, the student need to go out and teach the community. That is okay, because the approach is social-based learning, in which for the student to acquire that course learning outcome, the student need to create a program and teach the community. So your approach is about improving the student's skill. So not your approach is teaching the community. So student teach the community is your learning activity to get the student to acquire the skills for them to attain the course learning outcome. Don't get confused between that. But there are some of the approaches where the program is for teachers, whereas the teachers are not the students of the university. We know that there are some teachers who took study leave to become students. That is okay. But some of the project, they targeted for teachers. Now, constructive alignment, as I told you, some, when they write, there's no alignment with their course learning outcome or with certain learning theories. You mentioned that you use these learning theories, but the approach does not align with the learning theories, or even it does not align with the course learning outcome. Some of the candidate did not mention what is the learning outcome or what are the learning outcomes that they targeted, or the learning theory or theories, if some use a lot of theories in the approach. And evidence, some of the evidence are not provided. Okay, and some of the evidence also are not related. They want to show student motivation, but they provide evidence of other things. So you couldn't see the correlation with the evidence and with what they are trying to explain in their document. Another thing is a technical part. Because you have many links or QR code, so you mismatch. You put this QR code for impact, but when we scan, this is for the student activity. So your QR code does not correlate with the topic. So please, we will not be trying to search, okay, and have a good mindset. Okay, this educator actually tries, actually this video is for this topic. No, please put your QR code, your link in the appropriate section. Some of the links could not be accessed. So please make sure the setting of your link, when you prepare a Google link, make sure it is anyone with the link. Some, I know in certain universities, like in UMT, we have Google Suite for education. So there is another section only for UMT. So if your university have that kind of setting, please make sure you change it into anyone with link. We will not be contacting you and ask you, excuse me, I cannot access. Can you grant me your access? Okay? So please ensure that when you submit, the link can be accessible. Okay, for transformative, same as other categories, if your approach, the document that you provide, achieve a certain marks, then you will be called for pitching presentation. So some of the candidate, when they went into the final stage, what they explained does not align with what they wrote or prepared in the document. Through questioning, we noticed that, okay, actually this was not done at the industry. This was conducted in the university. But when they wrote that this is a collaboration with the industry. The picture shows the industry setting. But when they present, when we ask, oh, this is the setting in our lab. It's just a nearby lab inside our university. So it's not an industry unless you have an industry inside your university. I know that for example, they have industries coming in. They have a building, and where industry come up and open up a space, a workspace. So that can be counted. But like the example that I gave to all of you just now, they use the existing lab, teaching lab, but because it so happens that it looks like a place in the industry. So when we look at the document, okay, this it sounds good, but you will get caught when you present. Yeah, so make sure. And this, another thing that we also notice, some projects, the documents were prepared by other people. It was not prepared by the candidate. Maybe because they have a person who can write in a powerful manner. So when we read the document, it looks very good, but we notice that during presentation, when the actual person came and present, the presentation was not strong enough and reflect what is being inside here. So please be careful. If you don't have the ability, I'm not saying that the English is not good or the write-up has a lot of grammar. No, we are talking about the points and approach. The candidate was not able to explain explicitly the approach that has been beautifully written inside the document. So that means the knowledge of the candidate does not reflect the knowledge that we can see in the write-up. So this can bring lower marks to you. Okay, I will go to another section just for a short while, but I'm closing this the topic, and then we open up for question and answers. I just want to close this explanation on transformative teaching category with this graph that I also obtained from in Prof. Karim's presentation 3 years ago. Now, it's not about this diagram, but two things. Akri, especially for transformative teaching, the spirit is about sharing of best practices. So things that you have done before and proven effective, these are the things that the spirit of Akri would like to look into, because we want to expand the implementation of good practices in teaching and learning to the other educators. So when you prepare, don't prepare because of you think that this will be able to win to fill up my SKT. This is the opportunity that I can go into having to fill up for some categories or acknowledgement. Because there are, when we detected some, when they created solely for the competition, but not for the purpose of sharing the actual, what I mean by the actual intention to share, so that this thing can be noticed and applied to the others. So the spirit, another one is to improve the educators to implement what we call as scholarly teaching. That is why when you look into the form, they ask you about, does it align with the course learning outcome? What are the learning theories that you adopt? Because the ministry is hoping to let all educators to be or to implement scholarly teaching. That means you teach based on a certain literature, based on a certain learning theories, learning method, not just you teach because of you want to have fun in the classroom, you want to, in the more appropriate thing, shocks diri. Okay, you try to do this, students are happy. Okay, I made changes, students are happy, that is great. But to be a more scholarly teacher. So that is the thing that I want to close. And I want to share this. Two things. Okay, this is to give you some background. This is the things that I presented in 2017, but I'm using the previous slide, so it's in Bahasa. But I'm not going to go through all, but just to show you the information regarding course learning outcome. So what are the skills that you are trying to focus on? And the justification. For those of you who attended my sharing yesterday would know this, but for those of you who are just joining today, so in my case, I'm trying to teach and train students to design and make the breeding of a fish for them to be able to produce different colors in fish. So there are steps that needs to be taken. So the initiative of this project came in when I received comments. See, we asked the student to provide feedback either through emails, SMS, through our comment section, student evaluation. So the initiative to create the kit came in when I received comments from the student. They want hands-on. They want more lab activities. Some even suggest to me teaching kids alat bantu mengajar. They desire a practical lab. Okay, so these are the evidence example that you can show when you prepare your document. So justification, why the need for you to develop, for my case, why the need to develop the kit? If I were to teach the student, these are the facilities that I need in which my university don't have it. But how do I train students even though they don't have these facilities in the university? So I raised up the issues. If I were to use this, even if my university have all these facilities, there are other issues. To maintain them, fish can die. So it prohibits them to see the whole process. Bigger facilities, higher cost is needed. The cost to buy teaching materials, the time, it can take more than one semester to acquire the skill. So comes in how the design of the kit was being designed. So it started off in 2013 after I received the comments. So develop the kit, do some trial, implement in lab practical class, and implement in lab practical exam. So the kit, in my case, was designed based on simulation-based learning. So this is my kit. Okay, it's very novel because it hasn't been designed by anyone before. And this was my first trial. So evidence to show that, proof that you have started them just using a Manila card, and you have comments from the student that you get from the WhatsApp, from the Facebook. So provide that. And how does my approach transform the course to have a new practical session? Previously, there's no practical session of this kind, but the kit allows me to transform the execution of the course to have more practical activities. So this has transformed the structure, redesign of the execution of the course. And you can see student participation, involvement, so evidence These are example of the evidence. So how does the student learn? Learning by doing, cooperative learning, peer learning, and the step. Okay, just go through another name. Okay, this I've presented yesterday. So the instructional design, what the student needs to go through. Okay, so there are practical in which these are the existing practical, but incorporating the simulation kit. So this is where in another step, they learn about the process implemented in the lab. And this is what simulation-based learning is all about. It simulates the actual thing that the industry is doing in the actual pond. And my kit has brought me into designing an alternative assessment. So the kit was also being used for assessing the student. So I need to design a proper assessment question that enables them to have a higher thinking or order thinking. And the kit was designed to ensure that, yes, it is proven that it is able to assess the course learning outcome. So you can see how the simple kit was able to transform the teaching and learning environment of my course. And because of that, I can see what are the weaknesses. It also helps me to do intervention program. And a part of that, they were sent for field visit so that they can really see what is being happened. So the impact, okay, and last that, where's that? Stop share this one, share another one. This is just a glance. Okay, this is the document that I prepared last time. Okay, just go through. Want to highlight certain things. Okay, evidence. Again, you need to have evidence. Okay, the justification, the issues, how it is developed. I just put it inside here. Okay, teaching plan. This is the thing, must be clear so that people can see the steps that the student needs to go through. Evidence provided from the Facebook to prove the authenticity of the comments that I got from the students. And then the feedback after they went through the activities. Okay, student reflection. So find all those evidence to be add up inside. Okay, rubrics and how assessment were being conducted. Okay, the impact in terms of the results. Okay, the lab activities and what are the learning involvement occurs. Analysis from the WhatsApp and sharing of knowledge. So these are the things. The impact. So if it is, you say save cost, show which area or how much cost is being saved, the time, so on and so forth, right? So I think that's about it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shahriza, for a very inspiring talk. I said it's inspiring because it does inspire us to improve our teaching method, you know, to help the student to understand better or to at least achieve our course learning outcome. So here I have one question from our audience. Okay. The question is, with a hybrid teaching, may I know if the evaluation will remain the same?
Okay, hybrid teaching is just a method, right? The most important thing is that method hybrid half of it online, half of it maybe certain percentage face-to-face, certain percentage online. Is that approach were being conducted, even though maybe it's because of due to COVID or certain policy that we implement right now, does that approach tries to solve or tries to attain a certain learning outcome? So these are the things that we do. So the method that you use, that is not is not, for example, a must or a must, or it is not counted. So like you say hybrid, if we do hybrid and that hybrid teaching is intended to attain a certain learning outcome, is intended to increase student activity, okay, which meets the criteria of the transformative teaching, so the evaluation will still remain the same, because what we're going to see is alignment, impact, whether your learning design, you show to us the proper steps. These are the things that will be evaluated.
Thank you, Doctor. Because I think you do mention in your talk that it's not necessarily that we use the cutting edge technology. We can maybe use the the traditional technology, but if you can prove that you improve the students' involvement, you improve you improve the achievement of the course learning outcome, then you can use that to apply. Yes.
Because sorry, don't to not let others confuse. Maybe to thinking that I am against new cutting technology. It's not about that. But I'm trying to motivate others, because some people say that, oh, I'm not using all those online, so I might not be eligible to apply. No. If your method is, for example, you are applying Sulam previously, service learning or social learning, in which that method requires you to go to the community and it proves very effective, then so be it. That is the method. Highlight that method so that others can share. You can share that to others and others can try to apply. Technology is just a tool. Okay? When you want to build a house, you have many tools. You want to use penukul. You want to use the drill. It depends. It's not about, okay, I'm going to teach using Socrative, so this is my way. No. You have issues, you have the method, then only you select which ammunition or which tools that you're going to use to attain your course learning outcome. That's the thing.
Thank you, Doctor. So there is another question. It says, is the new intervention framework in assessing certain course learning outcome in the undergraduate program qualified for this category too?
Okay, we need to see if you can contact me later. When you say intervention framework, okay, it looks sound, but when I looked at assessing certain course learning outcome in undergraduate program, that means not undergraduate certain courses. So the key point here, when I look program, it looks like if it is written in a certain manner, it looks like maybe it qualifies for curriculum. So if you see what is the real intention here, these are the things. Or if that approach will be implemented in most of the courses in the program. So that can be a transformative teaching. You have an approach which is required to be implemented in, let's say, 10 courses of that in that program. So it can be said sebar luas, right? Can be implemented in several courses. So see the intention and how you write it. I would be glad to assist further if I can get more information about this. But that second point, if that is the purpose, it served and qualified for the category transformative teaching.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
And lastly, actually, I have one question to you. You do mention that for this category, we can apply as individual or as a group. So
Yes.
I'm assuming if we apply as a group, does it have to be a group of lecturers that teach the same course, or it can be a different course, but using the same method?
All right. In terms of, it can be individual, in terms of, it can be group. That group can be lecturers coming from different courses because you are trying to implement, you are getting assistance from other lecturers who are more expert in that particular approach. So doesn't mean that that course learning, that subject can only be applied among the lecturers who are teaching that subject.
I see.
It can come from any others as well. As long as okay, but bear in mind, this thing happens when in group project, suddenly when some this happened last time. So it was supposed that lecturer A was there to present. Something happened to lecturer A, lecturer B present. So lecturer B was not prepared to present this. Or maybe lecturer B, the involvement of this lecturer B was so minimum, small. So when that lecturer present, it breaks up that project. So make sure when you do a group, everybody knows about it.
Thank you, Prof, for the advice. Okay, and so the one who asked just now, one Norna Zayan, said will contact.
Okay. All right.
All right. So we will move to our next speaker, which is Dr. Lim from Taylor's University. He is the director of the e-learning academy at Taylor's University, and in 2013 he was awarded the Anugerah Akademik Negara kategori Anugerah Pengajaran Kelompok Sains Gunaan. His research interests includes collaborative learning spaces, blended learning, instructional technology in education. And today, Dr. Lim will talk about the third category, which is pengalaman pembelajaran immersive. So over to you, Dr. Lim.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Hasmawati. I'm not able to share my screen. Can you grant me the permission to share my screen?
Okay, wait a second, please. Okay, should be okay now.
Yes, it's good now. Let me share it now. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and share with all of you about Akri. Yeah, I think in the beginning of the seminar, Dr. Hasmawati actually mentioned about you are actually invited a few Sifu to come and share with all of you about some tips about Akri. In fact, I think we all are not the Sifu. Yeah, Prof. Azia, myself. Why we say we are not the Sifu? Because we never got the opportunity to go through this tough journey of Akri. Yeah. Yes, this is really a tough journey because the tough journey here meaning you can't do it in a short time. All right, you can't say that, okay, I know the deadline for Akri is next week, that I'm going to put up some submissions and then I would like to give it a try this week. No, it's tough because you really need times to prepare, to collect evidence. Right, to collect evidence. Evidence I'm going to share with you later also what type of evidence are needed. Yeah, and but I think Dr. Shah is the Sifu. Yeah, Dr. Shah was the winner in the first version of the Akri, which we call this as APRS. Yeah, and during that time, myself, Prof. Azia was in the panel, and all the panels are not allowed to participate. Yeah, and in fact, I think in the subsequent year, I think 2018, some of the panels actually quit the panel. Right? Reason because they would like to actually participate in the subsequent years of the Akri, and that's why at that point of time, we keep expanding the panel for the Akri by inviting all the winners to join us. So you can see now the panel group is actually become bigger because there are a lot of previous winners has been now become the panel. Yeah, and before I talk about this pengalaman pembelajaran immersive, or what we call this immersive learning, I think it's good to highlight about what are the differences between immersive learning and also the transformative teaching, like what Dr. Shah mentioned just now. Yeah, yes, these two looks like similar, but the two categories actually expect different requirements. Yeah, this category is called immersive learning. Immersive learning here, the keyword is learning. That means we want to see what are the impact on students' learning, yeah, which is very different from the transformative teaching. Transformative teaching here emphasizes more on the teaching part, meaning we want to see you as a teacher, what are the unique teaching methodologies, what are the unique way of you teaching that has an impact on students' learning. So the write-up in such a way that you need to focus more on how you teach. But in this category, the way you are going to tell the stories, you need to tell the stories from the student's perspective, how your students learn, what are the initiatives, what are the new ways of learning that you have already introduced to your students, and this new way of learning have an impact on your students. Yeah. And the word immersive here, we define this as a very simple way of defining it as deeply engaged. Deeply engaged. So you need to show evidence of how your students are deeply engaged throughout your learning. Throughout their learning. So this is a quick summary of the differences between these two categories. And of course, all the categories under Akri we have the same spirit, like what Dr. Shah mentioned also, is basically about sharing of best practices. So when you are submitting this Akri, please bear in mind that you are actually telling a story. You're actually telling a stories about what are the good things that you have implemented and how students benefited from it. Right. So you need to also convince the panel, right, that you have a very strong evidence, right, and we are able to really learn from you. I think the keyword is what we are. There must be something that we are able to learn from you, right? So my sharing today will be something very similar, like I think in November last year, right, where the Akri session was organized by GPT. So for those, if you have attended the Akri session organized by GPT, then this is like a repeat show lah. So it's like siaran ulangan. All right, I hope you don't mind, bear with me. But if you have attended the previous sessions, then you may want to start to think about what are the questions you want to ask me, so that you are able to take the first step. I think to take the first step is important, right? Which is what we always encourage our academics at Taylor's. Yeah, you may keep hearing about Taylor's selalu menang, keep winning this. Why are we keep winning this? Because I think when first the APRS was introduced, we actually encouraged a lot of our academics to participate and we keep telling them that this is the first time that MOHE is organizing this competition, and because this is new, then perhaps the requirements are easier, right, for you to win. So we encourage them to don't think too much. All right, we know you are good, and you need to believe in yourself and start collecting evidence, and let's give it a try. And now, if Akri will be organized in this year, then you'll be the fourth time. I think we started with 2017, 18, 19, then 20 we give a stop, and then 2021 there'll be so this is the fourth time that we have organized this. And of course, expectation is now tougher. The expectation is now higher because more and more people started to know the tips of winning it. So I think you need to ahead the game. And if you want to join this game, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to know the rules of the games. Yeah, so I'm going to go through with you quickly about the rules of the game. Right. So this immersive learning or pembelajaran immersive, there are 3 different categories. Each category there'll be winners. Yeah. So there are 3 winners for the bersemuka or face-to-face. There are 3 winners for the termadun or the blended, and also another 3 winners for the immersive maya or fully online. Yeah. Of course, there are three winners, but sometimes based on the quality, we may not have 3 winners. Yeah, or sometimes they may not have any winners as well. Yeah. Okay. What are the difference among these 3 categories? First of all, I think you need to think about how you implemented this new initiative. All right. Is this new initiative happened 80% of the SLT is happen in the virtual environment? If yes, then you need to go for the first category, which is fully online. Fully online here meaning more than 80% of SLT actually happen dalam bentuk digital tanpa bersemuka. So it's fully online. If your initiative is blended, meaning around 30 to 80% of the SLT is in the form of digital, non-face-to-face, then this is a category. And if your SLT are mostly face-to-face, mostly face-to-face, then you need to go for the bersemuka category. So these are the 3 different categories. Yeah, and again, I'm not sure what would be this year's criteria. Perhaps this year's criteria, I don't know. Perhaps we are going to remove the bersemuka because of the COVID-19 last year's. Yeah, so perhaps they are going to only have 2 categories. We are not sure as well. So I think more important is you need to know how to join the correct category by looking at your students' learning time. Right? By looking at students' learning time. And is it tough or not? Is it tough or not to participate in this category? Do you need to have a very chunky, very unique teaching? No, right? Because what is more important is your initiative must achieve only or minimum 1 learning outcome only. Right? So for example, in your 14 weeks of the semester, and your initiative is only applicable from week number 5 to week number 7. Yes, go ahead to participate. All right? Because you have, like, for example, at Taylor's, if it's a 4-credit module, normally we have 8 learning outcomes. Right? We have 8 learning outcomes. And your one initiative only achieve only 1 or 2 learning outcomes. Yes, it's fine. You don't really need to come in with a very big initiative that achieve all the learning outcomes in your module. Right? So it's actually written there, terbukti telah mencapai sekurang-kurangnya 1 learning outcome. 1 LO is sufficient. Yeah. But more important is this initiative must give an impact. Right? It's a very deep impact on the students' achievement and also students' experience. So you need to explain it. Again, I use the word story. You need to tell the story from students' perspective by focusing on experience and achievement. Yeah, we are not so interested to know about what have you done, right? Because this is immersive learning category. Right? We are not so sure. So in your story, you don't keep emphasizing on you have done this, you have done that. No, we are not so keen. What we want to know is what happened to your students. What happened to your students? Okay, of course. So there are some examples here. So if let's say you're talking about simulation lab, you're talking about micro-credential, you're talking about MOOCs, right? Virtual reality, AR, VR. Yes, then you can go for the Maya category. Right? But if yours one is about flipped classroom, blended learning, yeah, then this you need to go for the blended learning category. But if yours is more on like service learning, challenge-based learning, work-based learning, PBL, then you need to go for the bersemuka. Yeah. So which category to go for? Again, based on the SLT. Yeah. So for example, here the first title. So all the examples here are actually taken from the previous submission from Taylor's. Yeah. So I actually extracted this and share with all of you. For example, if you are participating in this bersemuka, then this is the title, right? Life skills. how do you prepare your graduates to actually thrive in the fourth industrial revolution? So meaning in this project, we actually talk about what are the different initiatives that are implemented to help students to acquire life skills, right? How to make students to be more resilient, to be able to cope in the VUCA world. So, and because students learn this through face-to-face contact, all right, 80% of this SLT is actually through face-to-face contact. That's why this is under the first bersemuka category. By looking at the title, the second title, then you'll be able to know the second title is about fully online. Right? It's about massive open online courses for the Hoboken ethnic module. Right? So this is how a module is actually run fully online. Yeah. So this is a Maya category, and the third one is blended learning. How these lectures actually design an interactive and engaging module site in LMS using a model called RASA, R-A-S-A model. Yeah. So I'm showing you this to give you an idea about the first impression is very important. So the way you frame the title must be able to attract the attention of the panel. Right? So for example, to me, I look at the third title, I think this is a good title because RASA model. I'm curious to know what is actually RASA model. Yeah. So I would like to know more about RASA model. And then when I read the portfolio, when I read the stories there, I started to appreciate, oh, all right. So because of this RASA model, the way students learn is now changed. Right? The way the students are able to now learn in more engaging manner, all right, more immersive manner. Yeah. So yes, to convince the panel is very important. And who are the panels? These are all the panel here. Yeah, of course, these are the 2019 panel. We don't know who are the 2021 panel yet. Yeah, and some of these you may know. I think perhaps you may know some of them. But we always uphold integrity. Yeah, so meaning like what Prof. Azia mentioned. Also, if there are any submissions from tailors, then any panel from tailors, you are not allowed to touch the submission. Right? But yes, and at the same time also, if there are some submissions from non-tailors, but we know this person, right? For example, let's say from IUM, and then we know this person, all right, then we are not allowed to also evaluate this as well. Yeah. So I'll go through very quickly on the form and also the requirements, and these are very similar to what Dr. Shah mentioned also. Right? Again, the form are very similar. Right? The only thing is we emphasize both categories emphasize on different areas. Yeah. So you can submit as individual, you can submit as a group as well. The group can come from different faculties, right? But it must be endorsed by the NC. Right? Must be endorsed by the NC or Timbalan NC or yang setaraf. Yeah. These are the distribution of the marks. Yeah. The requirements are very similar to transformative teaching, but the distribution of the marks are different. For this one, pendekatan, keterlibatan pelajar, and also the effectiveness, the keberkesanan, all are equally important. All are equally important. I'm sharing this with you based on the 2019 forms, application forms. So these three are equally important, and the rationale is only 10%. Right? So by looking at this percentage, the distribution, then you get a better idea. What are your focus when you want to submit? Don't put too much on the rationale. All right? Yes, rationale is important, but it's only 10%. What is more important is your approach, how your students' involvement, and also to show us the evidence. Yep. Okay. So these are all the forms. Yeah, these are all the forms. And make sure when 2021 Akri is open for applications, make sure you download the latest form. Because one of the common mistake based on our previous experience was because you have prepared everything, all right, or you have submitted in the 2019 Akri, and in 2021 you just modify and you submit, but you are still using the old form. Right? So don't give the panel the opportunities to disqualify you because of all these technical problems. Make sure you go to the website and download the most updated form. Yeah. And yes, so if these are the categories that you need to really indicate, right? Blended, face-to-face or fully online, and whether this is individual or a group. Of course, we encourage you to submit as a group. Submit as a group. Why? Because you are able to share share the tough journey, the pain, right? If you are submitting as a group, then you need to indicate very clear about the peranan, the role of each of the member. For example, some of the members are instructional designer, some members are content developers, some members actually are helping you to do the video shooting. Yeah, and of course, if you are the lecturers, then you can be the ketua kumpulan. Right? But trying to get other people to come and help you. Yeah. Okay, and of course, these are all the write-up. All right, the write-up, the synopsis, right? What is the kursus? What is the course? For example, all right, make sure this is related to engineering 101 course. What is the learning outcomes? Right? Don't list all the learning outcomes. Only list the relevant learning outcomes only. Relevant here meaning applicable to your initiative. Yeah, and then some synopsis here. Okay, just an overall idea. Yeah, and what is more important is here. Rational. That's why I mentioned rational is 10%, right? So where is this 10% coming from? 5% will come from your issue pembelajaran lah. All right, because there are only 2 parts here only. Let me see. Yeah, it's only 2 parts only. Right. So I think this is common sense also. As a lecturers, we know if this section D is 10 marks, right, and then you got D1 and D2, and in most of the cases, 5 marks will be given to D1, 5 marks will be given to D2. Yeah. So you need to talk about what are the problems that you are facing and what is the objective. Right. The objective here must be aligned with your problems, lah. Right. So this is one of the case. Right. One of the case. Yeah. I call this as winning. These are all the winning example. Right. So one good thing we can learn from here is you can actually include some infographic. Right. Include some infographic. Infographic words are not counted. All right. But all these words are counted. So make sure you don't exceed 100 words. Otherwise, the panel will not going to read. Yeah. Right. So we're going to read. If let's say you have 200 words, we're going to read until 100 words. Then we're going to stop already. So yeah, so what are the problems? So we mentioned about the problem is about the fresh graduates unemployability, right? Unemployment. So you show these are employment reasons. Then how your initiative help to overcome this, right? So this is the rationale of the project. Then after that, we go to the pendekatan. All right, pendekatan here meaning the approach. Approach, how many percent? 30, right? 30 marks here. So the 30 marks here will be E1, E2, E3. So most likely each part will be 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks here. This is how the panel evaluate your portfolio, right? So in this case, you need to talk about number 1. Again, I'm using the 2019 form. We are not sure whether is there any amendment or not. Yeah. So I'm sharing with you based on 2019's form. Number 1 is the pendekatan. That means what approach, right? You have used it and how this approach is redesigned, how you redesign this approach in a very creative or innovative way. Number 2 is you need to explain about how this approach provide an opportunity for students to learn in a very meaningful manner. Right? And the third one is about how this approach is designed in a very systematic way, in a very scalable and transferable way. What is systematic? Later I'll show an example. This is some better known methods, some clever way of how to describe your approach in a very systematic way. Anyone got any suggestions or not? Any suggestions? How? Yeah, if I say I want to explain this is my approach, how do I explain it in a very systematic way? What is the common? What is the? Or do you have any suggestions? How do we present it in a more systematic way? If you have, you can just put in the chat, right? Or you can just unmute your microphone and share with us before I reveal the answer. Okay. All right. So this approach, follow sequence. Yes, correct. Follow sequence. Thank you. All right. Follow sequence. Follow sequence here meaning you need to have a step by step. All right. So the most important and the easiest way of explaining an approach is you show us the flow. All right. Step by step flow. So that we are able, and who are good at this? Engineers. Yeah, engineers are very good at this. Right? You explain certain methods in a very systematic way that even for us, because again, you don't make it too complex, right? Because you need to know that the panels may not be in your discipline. Right? I'm not from if let's say I'm not from an engineering background, right? But you explain it too complex that only engineers can understand, then panelists will not be able to appreciate it. Right? You must explain it in everyone can understand. Yeah. So you see, so this is the pendekatan. You put in an infographic manner. All right. So the blended learning approach, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are 7 approach. Storytelling, all right, collaboration, interactive simulation, all right, game-based learning, all right, and then they implemented the bring your own device concept, BYOD, and this is how the RASA model was used. So it makes it very easy for us to understand, and more important is for us to learn, right? Because I think the panels are learning from you all, right? Yeah, and what are the evidence? All right, students have learned it in a very meaningful way. You show us some pictures, right? Show us some pictures and elaborate your pictures. And for example, you say students are learning virtually, interactively, in a self-paced manner, in a digital manner, collaborative manner, right? Show us the evidence in an infographic manner, then with your elaboration. And systematic here, I don't have a systematic, but what you mentioned just now was correct. Systematic here meaning you must show us the flow. All right, for example, all right, in this pendekatan, you have step 1 to do what, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, follow the sequence. And how do you prove evidence that this innovation is transferable? Transferable here meaning is not only applicable to your discipline. All right, it can be also be applied in, for example, you are in engineering faculty, but this initiative can also be applicable to health sciences, also applicable to social sciences. Yeah, so this is what we call transferable. Then you need to provide evidence. For example, this initiative is adopted among all these 5 faculties in 34 programs, right? 34 programs in 13 different schools. Yeah, and then more than 2,000 students are impacted, are involved in this project, right? And so you need to actually elaborate it in a way that this is really transferable and scalable. Scalable here meaning it's not only within your small group of students benefited. Right? It is actually scalable that now, yes, in the beginning, perhaps it's only your own class, but it is possible to extend it to other classes. Right? And the third one is about penterlibatan belajar, students' involvement. Again, it's also 30 marks here. This is a part that we expect to see some portfolio. And please don't repeat the same mistake like what Dr. Shah mentioned to all of us just now. All right, example like the QR code, wrong QR code, wrong URL, Google Drive, need permission to open all this. Yeah. So again, my simple advice is don't give the panel any opportunity or any chance to disqualify your submission. Yeah, because you have spent a lot of time in this submission. Don't give us any chance. Yeah, so that there is no reason why we want to disqualify you because of technical reason. Yeah, so students' involvement. Yeah, student involvement, you can show about us this how students involved cognitively, psychomotor, and affective domain. How students involved in the conception of the ideas, in the development and implementation stage, in the affective domain here. Right? And in this case, we actually use the word head, hands, and heart. All right, so to represent cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. I think these are all clever way. And again, you are not just writing stories. You need to provide us pictures for us to easier to understand. And remember, I show you the panel photos. This category is I believe this category is the with the most panel, because this is the most popular category. Immersive learning. We receive a lot of submissions. So you really need to make sure that your submissions stand out from the rest, right? By showing us a lot of pictures, photos for us to believe it, right? For us to believe it. Sometimes, yeah, you can write in a very nice way, but when we really try to find the evidence, we can't really find a very concrete or convincing evidence. Yeah. So again, you see, your students' involvement, the best way to show this is what? If this is face-to-face, then you need to show us these are the tangible products that students produce. right? Tangible products that students produce. Right? If this is fully online, then you need to show us about the log in your LMS, right? How students activeness in the LMS, right? Or if this is related to commercialization, then you need to show us this is how your students earn profits based on what are the projects that you have done. So show us all these things. And the last part is about the impact. Impact is also 30% impact. I'm not going to go through one by one, but the impact here, I'll show some example. The impact can be, for example, the survey that you have conducted. All right, the survey that you have conducted. You can also talk about the students' reflection. Right, student reflection. What students think about this? Right, what are the impact? Can be also be if you have any newspaper articles. Right, students are winning projects. Yeah, show us all these things because this is all about meaningful learning. This is all about impact to the students' learning. Yes, please involve the employers. Yeah, involve the industry. Yeah, when we talk about impact. So we like to hear from industry. So meaning your innovation is not just recognized by your students, but also recognized by the industry players. Right? And you can also talk about after completing their bachelor degrees, students are now opening up their own business. For example, this was, I think, in 2018. Yeah, students actually open up their own business. Right? Or if you have actually participated in other similar contests, you can show us also. All right, for example, I think this one is in UCell. Yeah, so show us all the evidence, all the achievement that you have. Yeah, and the last part is about, make sure that you submit on time. All right, JPT is very particular in terms of time. When they said Friday 5 p.m. means 5 p.m. Right? If the documents reach JPT at Friday 5:05, 5 minutes late, then it will this submission will be disqualified. Yeah. So normally we encourage our academic to submit at least 1 day before. So meaning we are going to make sure that we reach all these documents from tailors will reach JPT at least 1 day before or on that day morning. Yeah, or at the day morning, and make sure that you get the endorsement from the VC. Make sure you get endorsement from VC. Otherwise, again, it is very sayang, wasted. It will be disqualified also. Yeah. So all these are the some common mistakes which I don't think I want to repeat. It's very similar. And there is a checklist for you. Make sure you have submitted all the checklists and make sure you do it yourself. Right? Don't appoint anyone to do it. Yeah, all right. We always encourage lecturers. All right, this is your project. All right, and you need to really show your commitment. You need to do it yourself. All right, not to get third party to do it for you. And again, these are all the problems here. Then will be the before I go to Q&A, then this is just a submission. Right? From the submission, we will shortlist. Right? We'll shortlist a few projects to call for the pitching. Right? To call for the presentation, the pitching. So when it comes to the pitching part, is totally different. When it comes to the pitching part, will be we are going to get different panel to be the judging panel for the pitching. Meaning to say, those who have read your portfolio will not be the judging panel during the pitching. Right? And in the pitching, I think each group is given 10 minutes to present. Only 10 minutes to present, and then plus another 5 minutes for Q&A. And we are very strict in terms of the timing. After 10 minutes, we'll stop you from presenting. So it's very crucial because sometimes you can prepare a very good portfolio. All right? It's very impressive a portfolio, but during the presentation, you are not able to deliver the gist of your presentation. Right? Or because of the very short duration, you really need to know what to present. I really need to know what to present. Yeah, and you can't focus too much on things which are not important. So our advice to you is, if you are lucky to be shortlisted during your 10 minutes presentation, you need to use this as a guide. This as a guide, right? This as a guide. So meaning to say that 10 minutes, you should only spend 1 minute on rationale, 3 minutes for the pendekatan, 3 minutes for the involvement, 3 minutes for the effectiveness. Because sometimes There are some group that actually spend a lot of time talk about rational pendekatan. By the time you finish these two, 10 minutes over. Then the panel will have no opportunity to listen to a keterlibatan and keberkesanan. And you can't blame the panel because it's not the panel's job to go and build your portfolio. Right? All the marks start from zero. All right. Even you score the highest during the portfolio stage, but when it comes to pitching, everything will start from zero. And we only judge you based on your presentation, based on the Q&A. But of course, as a panel, we try to help you. So if, for example, there is no opportunity for you to talk about the effectiveness, during the Q&A, we'll ask you. Right? So we try to help you. We ask you what are the effectiveness, then at least to give you opportunity to further elaborate. Right? Otherwise, if you never talk about the effectiveness or you never talk about the involvement, then you get zero for that part. That's why if you look at the past few rounds, I think certain categories there are no winners. Right? Not to say they are not good. The only thing is in the presentation, you are not able to deliver the gist of your innovation. You are not able to convince the panel that this is an innovation. Yeah, during the short time. And of course, there is titik ambang also, cutting point. Yeah, I think usually we set about 75 marks. 75 marks. So meaning you need to achieve 75 marks. Again, this is based on the previous experience, sometimes 70, sometimes 80 or so. Right? There is a cutting point to decide whether are you able to be shortlisted to call for pitching, and for those who are in the pitching sessions to see whether are you able to get prizes or not. Right? So this is what I can share with you, and I wish you all the best, and you feel free to ask any questions, but my advice is still the same. Don't think too much. All right? Start collecting evidence. All right? You know, some people say, they got all these very good factors. Yes, I've done very good last semester, especially last semester. You've done very good. All right? Yes, I think you have done very good. We agree. But more important is you must start to collect evidence. Right? You must start to strategize how you're going to do it. And now you know these are the 4 categories. So you need to know effectiveness. This is something that you are not able to create this overnight. Students' involvement, you really need evidence. You really need data. Yeah. So start collecting this, and then of course the rationale and the pendekatan, this one it's come from you. Right? Yes. As long as you do some reading and then you listen to our presentation, you'll be able to get some idea. And what Dr. Shah showed you just now was a winning portfolio as well. I think in 2017. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. Over to you, Dr. Hasmawati.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. It's very, motivational to learn this kind of thing that will, help to apply for something like this. So there are 2 questions from our audience. So the first question is, will the infographics be the better ways to storytelling?
Will the infographic be the better way? My advice to my colleagues, right, for those who want to participate in Akri, I tell them infographic is compulsory. Yeah. So meaning infographic should be not better way, but it's the way. All right. Unless you're able to think of a better way as compared to infographic. Right. And what I tell them is, you have a very good write-up, but sometimes panel may not have time to really read all. So we really need to catch the panel's attention by showing them the infographic. So infographic, this is the part that you need to involve some team members, okay? Especially those learning designer to help you to do some infographic. For example, this one. Of course, without this infographic, you are able to elaborate also. But infographic will be able to help us to visualize your innovation. Right? Visualize your innovation. So I would say that infographic is important. Yes, definitely is a better way to help you to tell your stories, to convince the panel in the short time. Right? In the short time, because I think usually each portfolio we spend about 30 minutes to, about 30 minutes. Yeah.
For our course with project, is it applicable under immerse learning category?
Immersive learning category, of course, courses with project.
Yes.
Of course, yes. Yeah, again, it's based on, can you elaborate more on the innovation or what are the initiatives that you have embarked on? Because we need to know the students' learning time, right? If your project is mainly conducted face-to-face, yes, then you can go for the immersive learning bersemuka. But if your project is highly fully online, then you can go for the immersive learning maya. Yes, yes, it can. And it depends on the nature of your project, how your students spend in terms of the student learning time.
And I think the last question, we have marketing weeks where the student sell products and collected money. Can this course participate?
Yes, of course. But my question is, what's so special about your students selling products and collecting money? Is this something very special? If yes, then you need to convince us this is a very unique. Yeah, because I think to us, I think this is something very common. All right, many students also selling projects. All right, but what have you done to make this process of selling projects is very meaningful to students? Right? Do you have any evidence to say that because of these selling products, right, students learn better, they become better graduates, or you actually prepare them to be the entrepreneur? Right? So you need to think of an angle to convince the panel, yeah, so that we see this as an innovation and not just a project. Yeah. So if we see this as one of the many projects, because you need to know each category. I think for this category, we easily receive about, I think the last one we received close to about 100 submissions. And so 100 submissions, perhaps 20% are talking about students selling products. But what's so special about you? All right. So this is the difficult part. Yeah. So the short answer is yes, marketing weeks are, yeah, unless you, okay, how you have structured the learning process to give an opportunity for students to expose them to the real world, right? And what are the thinking behind? What are the thinking behind why you want to have these marketing weeks? And how students actually involved? What are the learning? So yeah, it is applicable. Of course, you can say that this marketing weeks is also transferable. Yeah, it can be transferable to other faculties. It's scalable, right? Because it can actually get more and more students to participate. Yes, yeah. So again, you need to look at the evidence and these marketing weeks, whether how do your students involved, right? How do they actually involve in the cognitive manner, psychomotor, affective manner, right? Do you have evidence of their revenue? Yeah. Okay, and again, I need to highlight to you is about, you see, all these things, the example I showed you, I think this one was in 2017. So in 2017, this may be an innovation, but when it comes to 2021, it may not be. I'm not sure. Right? So that's why this all depends on how you project it, how you find angle to sell your idea to the panel.
Thank you, Dr. Lim, for answering the audience question. So I think we move now to our fourth speaker, which is Associate Professor Dr. Ma'an from Faculty of Engineering, IIUM. And he is a lecturer as well as the Deputy Dean for Academic Affairs at the Faculty of Engineering, IIUM. And his research interests includes water and wastewater treatment technology, and he won the Best Teacher Award at IIUM university level in 2014. And Dr. Ma'an will talk about the last category, which is pentaksiran alternative. So I pass the floor to you, Dr. Ma'an.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, Dr. Hasmawati. And thank you for CPD for inviting me to share this about this award, which is related to alternative assessment category. This category actually has started quite late in 2019 as a separate category. Before that, it was under another category. And then the members thought that we need to encourage our lecturers to look into alternative assessment as one of the means to improve on teaching and learning. So in 2019, as you can see, the alternative assessment category was separated as a standalone category. All right, so according to the definition on Akri website, alternative assessment is defined as an assessment method in non-conventional form, and it is not limited to summative. It can include formative, authentic, assessment as learning, and assessment for learning. So it can include all these forms of assessment. It's not only limited for summative assessment. And the method of assessment should be a method that succeeded in effectively transforming the assessment of a learning outcome based on the definition of MQA framework. And this is similar to all the other categories where you need only one learning outcome. You don't have to include all the learning outcomes of the course. If the other learning outcomes are assessed as well or used in this alternative assessment, then you can include. But of course, the more learning outcomes you add, the more complicated it will be. So to make your life easier and your application more simple, you can just put one learning outcome and focus on that. And the method that has been used proved to achieve at least one learning outcome for a particular domain. And I will talk about the domain later on. Now, this is not my slide. I just took it from the internet. And since this is just a sharing session, I hope I don't need any approval to use the slide. It's not a commercial presentation. So the difference between traditional and alternative assessment is about who is the center of the learning process, the teacher or the student. So usually for traditional, it's the teacher-centered. Centered means the teacher is the one who selects the assessment. In alternative assessment, you can provide a room for the students to choose the assessment. Of course, you still can select for alternative assessment, but if we go to more extreme, it will be even the student who are looking into what kind of assessment they want for this particular course or project. For traditional, sometimes we only have one right answer. For alternative assessment, it might have multiple right answers. Like if we have a project, an open-ended problem, a project-based learning kind of assessment, usually it will have open answer. It's not like there is one answer for it. For the traditional, usually leveled by grade. For the alternative is mastery level determined by the student. And it is content specific. For the alternative assessment, it is content weaving across multiple disciplines. And actually, this is one of the areas where we can have a let me say creative way of or creative alternative assessment, where your assessment is not only limited to your course. You can expand it to other courses or maybe other disciplines. For example, if you are teaching thermodynamics in chemical engineering, you can do the assessment with thermodynamics and mechanical engineering and maybe other programs. Or in the same program, you are doing thermodynamics, you are doing reaction engineering, and you are doing maybe heat transfer. So you do the assessment across the three courses rather than just one course. And you create your assessment, you develop your assessment based on that. so that you get the students to understand thermodynamics from the concepts of thermodynamics, for example, from the various contexts of the different courses. Also, in terms of who are the audience, traditional might be usually limited to the teacher or lecturer and the student. Alternative assessment, you can widen the scope of the audience who can be assessing the students. I saw a question just now on by Dr. Suhaimi saying we have marketing weeks, students did sell products. So in this case, you can develop an assessment where the customers of the students can assess the students' performance. So the rubrics you create is not only limited to you as a lecturer or to the students themselves. You can also get the students to do peer assessment, but also you can open it to the audience, to the customers, to other stakeholders who are involved in the learning process. Because when they start selling, you might want to focus on one of the learning outcome is maybe to generate higher income, or maybe when they do marketing, in their marketing skill, how are they performing their marketing? So your assessment on that. And then you can ask the customers who are buying from these students to evaluate their marketing skills. So you prepare a questionnaire or rubrics, and then you ask them to do that. That will be an interesting project that could be used for this criteria. And of course, it's unimodal communication, multimodal communication, and a few other. These are just some of the examples of the differences between traditional and alternative. And on some of the examples on alternative assessment could be on artwork, portfolios, presentation, maps, research project, letters, web pages, role playing. So all these are examples, and of course there are many others that we can look at. Now the challenge here is how to come up with an alternative assessment, which is, for example, using portfolios, which has been used so far by many, but you come up with something different. You add that element to your alternative assessment using portfolio, which is new, for example. Or you can still refer to the summer model, which has been explained by Dr. Shahriza and Dr. Lim, to see what is the added value of your assessment compared to the previous one. Is it augmented or whatever level of creativity in that particular assessment? The objective of the award is to identify alternative assessment method or methods which has successfully transformed the assessment of the learning outcomes of a course effectively. So it's not just an assessment method that has been used, but it has it effectively transformed the learning process and the assessment of the learning process. And of course, it reflected on the learning process itself. Now, the conditions for applications are somehow similar to the other categories. It is open for individual or groups of individuals. So you can apply as one person, or you can have a team. And also it can be, we only allow one entry per individual or per group for that particular category. You can apply for different categories, but for the same category, you're only allowed to apply for one time only, one application. So let's say, going back, as Dr. Saimi mentioned about his project, the marketing project, you can apply, you can submit 3 applications, one for immersive, one for transforming and transforming, and one is for the alternative assessment. But you address each one differently for the same project. You can, if you address it from one focusing on the teaching, one focusing on the learning, and one focusing on the assessment, you can do that. and apply for the 3 categories. Of course, the pendekatan and the approaches and all will be different for each category. And in this category, you need to submit 1 video, which is not more than 3 minutes, to describe the project. And I will elaborate more on this later on. And please make sure that the application is signed by, in IIUM usually it's director, or I'm not sure, they allow, I think they allow the deputy director to sign. I think rector only, so probably this matter we can check on later on. I'm not going to address on the issues of why the application can be rejected at the entry, because it has been covered by the previous speakers, and it's all the same in terms of incomplete information, signature is not there, and so on. All right. So also similar to other categories, we have criteria for assessment, and as you have observed, the criteria is different in terms of the percentage from one criteria to another. On assessment, the 2 criteria that takes the highest percentage are the approach and the impact. And as you can see, the approach is the highest, 40%. So you need to know that for this category, I need to have a clear approach for creating this assessment. Now, the rationale, again, similar to the others, is why are you doing this? What are the reasons? What motivated you to come up with this a new assessment or alternative assessment? This could be because the students' feedback, because of you see that the learning is not happening, or you feel that the assessment, I spend a lot of time on the assessment, but it is not really helping the students in learning. I want this assessment to contribute to the learning as well. So you modify the assessment. The approach, you need to explain on details on the steps of coming out with this alternative assessment. Probably I will go through this later on when I go look at the form, and student engagement, and then impact. Similarly, I will go through the discussion based on the form, and also I'm using the latest form, which is 2019. And again, there might be some changes on the form. However, the main content will still be there. All right. So the first part of the form that you need to observe is that when you, if the project is by one person, then it's just you. But if it is a group of members, then you need to clarify on the roles of all the members. You have to indicate the name, you put the IC number or the passport number. That should be a passport, not port pass. And the role of the members. So the role could be proofreader, instructional designer, content developer, and so on. So maybe in alternative assessment, sometimes we need to do statistical analysis after to evaluate the assessment. So maybe the person who did the statistics is part of the members. So you can specify the role of the person there. In terms of the project initiative, you need to indicate the project title, what course is involved, and the learning outcome. And as mentioned before, one learning outcome is sufficient. Do not, of course, again, you can use more than one, but you have to be very careful in doing that. And the project synopsis. And in the project synopsis, it must be very clear. Trying to, in the project synopsis, because now we are doing FIGS, right? In FIGS, now the executive summary is after the title. The title must be catchy, but it's not really an issue to say that the title is not suitable, then we reject the application. We will look more into the synopsis and other criteria, because the rubrics will address all the application from various aspects, and then the total mark will decide whether the application will be shortlisted for the next level, or it will be it will stop at that point. So the project synopsis is very important to get the panel to understand what you're actually doing. Please observe that it is limited to 300 words, and it must be very, very clear. Clear to the extent that we don't need to think like, we wish we could call this person to just clarify on this. The synopsis links seems to be there, but something is missing. And when I say we wish that we can call, because it happened that sometimes we joke with the head of panel and say, can we call the person to ask what do they mean here? Because it's the project seems to be there, but the write-up is not clear. We are not clear, and I'll clarify later on where we are not clear, especially in this category, where certain applicants actually miss in achieving or having high opportunity to achieve for this particular project. Now for the synopsis, you need to prepare, as I mentioned, a 3 minutes video. And this video is, of course, you need to provide the link and the issues mentioned before by other speakers on the challenges of the links and so on. I think I'm not going to cover on that. So what is the purpose of this video? The purpose of this video is not to put your synopsis into a video format, meaning that don't just read your synopsis or repeat your synopsis in the video. The video is meant to for the applicant to state what they couldn't put in writing, maybe showing graphics or showing pictures and so on. And it's not because I have 300 words in the synopsis, I want to say more, so I put it in the video, unless it is really helping in making things clear. And actually the video came in later on. It was not there before in 2017 and I think 18. It came in because of the issue I mentioned earlier. The synopsis is not clear. There's something that the applicant can say better, maybe can show. And we've observed this when the applicants do pitching. When they do pitching, they show things which is not written in the synopsis. So we thought, let's give them an opportunity to come up with this video to give more explanation. So this is actually a good chance, but we've seen some who missed that. They still give like just the synopsis is just being repeated in their video, without adding any extra and substantial information for the panel to appreciate that this project can go to the next level. On the rationale, it's about the challenges, the issues that triggered and motivated this project on alternative assessment. And again, it's somehow the spirit is the same with other categories. We need to always observe the maximum words that are allowed for each part. All right, so here it's talking about the main challenges. It is related to the assessment, meaning that we want the assessment to improve the learning of the students. So the students are learning, but we feel that they can learn better, and we want to do this through the assessment. And when I say here related to assessment, it's not related to teaching. It's not related to the learning. It's related to the assessment. As the assessment could be related to contribute to the learning. That is a different issue. But if it is more on the teaching and learning, then you are talking about the other categories. You are not talking about alternative assessment. It might address the weakness of current assessment. Maybe it is focusing on assessing the learning only. Maybe you want to assess other things. It is there is no enough engagement in the assessment. So you want an assessment that engages students more. So as they are doing the assessment, they are also engaged. It's not just like paper pen kind of assessment. Maybe the student achievement in the class is low, so you want to motivate them more, you want to engage them more, you want to create activities in the class. But remember, these things can be across the borders of other categories. So you need to be clear that when I said all this, you are looking in the assessment that will address these issues. All right. So it's not about your teaching; it's about the assessment. And maybe it's because based on the students' feedback that triggers you to come out with alternative assessment. All right. Under rational also, what is the objective of the alternative assessment? So objective here, you must clarify what is the objective. Maybe you can say achieve learning through assessment, involvement of community in the assessment, have the objective. Sorry, this is another point. Now, when we talk about objective, because we see objective, so it needs to have the objective characteristics. You can use SMART. You can use any other model to gauge your objective. Does it achieve the characteristics of an objective? All right. And then the approach. The approach is very, very crucial, as you remember. The rational, just now we said it's only 10%. The approach is 40%. So this is where the focus should be, because actually the approach is the core of the alternative assessment project. So here you need to make sure that the alternative assessment is in line with the learning outcome, and you need to include the course assessment plan, right? You might want to show what is the previous assessment, what is the plan that you have followed to create this assessment. So it's like you can show it in a flow diagram, you can show it in any form, just to show what is the plan that you have followed in the assessment. Maybe you did an analysis before on the current assessment, and then you did a survey for the students, whatever steps that you have taken to come out with this project. And when we say it is in line with the learning outcome, you have to remember the learning outcome, the learning domain. We have 3 learning domains. We have cognitive, we have psychomotor, and we have affective. So the assessment must reflect on the domain. If the outcome is written in a way that it is more on psychomotor, your assessment cannot be on cognitive. Otherwise, they are not, we say selaras, right? They are not in line with each other. They are talking 2 different, and that could be the end of this application, because they are not talking to each other, the learning outcome and the assessment method. All right. So this is where we need to look at the learning domain of the learning outcome, and the assessment is assessing that domain and not any other domain. On the approach also, we need to know whether this is an original idea, like nobody has come up with this, or it is adapted from a previous model or a source. So you need to show that very, very clearly. You see, you have 200 words, so you need to be very concise. If you need to refer to the literature and show that this idea is original. And going back again to originality, you can refer to the SAMR model to compare. If it is say it is original, you show that it is not. This is the first time being used. I'm the first one who created this assessment. If it is adopted from other sources or models, you can show the level of how far it is being modified. How much you added to that. Like Dr. Shahriza, when he talked about Padlet is there. You can use it for assessment. You can use it for teaching. But if you want to use Padlet, you added something, another element to Padlet to make it a more effective assessment compared to the way it is being used now, or YouTube, for example. All right. So here we want to look at how novel is the assessment. Of course, if it is novel, it will carry more weightage on the marking scheme. Saying that doesn't mean that if it is adopted from previous works, it is not acceptable. It is acceptable as long as it is not just taken as is. You just take it and apply it, and it is just adopting or applying other people's work. And then when you talk about originality, what is the level of originality? If it is adopted from other models, is it exactly the same? What did you modify on it? You can use a flow chart to explain here. And some of the drawbacks in some of the applications is that the novelty is not well explained. And if it is adopted from another model, it is the original model is not well explained for the panel to understand the existing model that has been somehow used in the alternative assessment. And so when we don't understand the existing model, we might not be able to see the difference, see your contribution, right? So the explanation is not there, and there is no evidence provided. So this is actually an evidence-based component. So you must show evidence. When you say novel, you should show an evidence. When you say it is from a previous model, you need to show the evidence, meaning that this is the model, and show evidence of the changes you have made to the existing model to make this alternative assessment more maybe interesting. The form is in Bahasa Melayu so far. Actually, it should be also in English because the award is open for all. It's not only limited to Malaysians. It's open to all lecturers from as long as they are on their duty. Sometimes it's just technicalities why the form is not in English. But it should be actually in English. And at the end we say, hopefully the university will help the staff in understanding the form content. All right. Or you can just do like me, just learn Bahasa and then it becomes easier. On the approach, what types or forms of assessments used and how is it suitable to measure the selected learner outcome? And here you can say we used open book exam, we use take-home exam, we use PBL, we use role play, student portfolio. So this is the type of assessment or the form of assessment. And you must show how it is suitable for that learner outcome. All right. It's very important to always relate the assessment to the learning outcome you are using in the application. Because if that connection is not there, the application will not be valid anymore. All right. And I'm trying to go not very fast, but not that slow, so that maybe you can have more time for Q&A. Again, you can see in the approach we have at least 4 elements. The 4th element is very, very important, which is on the planning, the development, and implementation. We must see that. All right. That's why we said before you need to show the plan. How did you plan? What was your plan? You do surveys, you analyze the current assessment in place, and then you create your rubrics. How did you create your rubrics? And use any, as we mentioned, is it based on previous models? What modification you have done? And then how did you apply the rubrics? How did you evaluate the effectiveness of the rubrics? Maybe you've done statistical analysis, and tomorrow, I think tomorrow, isn't it? There will be a session with some other winners from Akri, and Dr. Adiba is there. She is one of the, I think she won the last Akri, if I'm not mistaken. And she did a very good, I mean, we've seen that her application was distinguished from the beginning because she did all the steps from analyzing the current assessment, the plan, and the implementation, and then even the evaluation, doing t-tests and all this statistical analysis to show that the assessment actually managed to assess what she want to assess. All right, and actually talking about the pitching, also she was very exceptional in her pitching because her presentation didn't start the PowerPoint for a reason. There was some technicalities, but she managed to, present without the PowerPoint, which shows that it's really her project. Like Shahriza said, sometimes the leader of the project is not there. Somebody else will come in. They are not really immersed into the project, and they are not able to show the essence of the project and answer even in question. But she managed to present very, very well. That was one of the very unique, complete, I would say, or almost complete alternative assessment application. All right, and evidence is important, and the rubric. See, the rubric still in Bahasa. I did forget to change. The rubric also should be there. If the rubric is not there, we cannot assess the application. All right, so you need to show the plan, the alternative assessment process, methods, tools, criteria used. You have to include the rubrics that you developed and used in the project, your evaluation of the alternative assessment. And remember, it's not about the teaching and learning. It's about assessment. Because one of the reasons why some applicants couldn't make it, is because they are talking about the teaching. They are talking about how the students are learning and engaging without relating this to the assessment. So they kind of forget that this is about the assessment. So make sure the assessment is always in the middle of the picture. So if you're talking about student activities, student engagement, the assessment, how the students are engaged by using the assessment, how is the assessment related to the activity? Because the activity can be just a teaching approach, right? And the assessment cannot just be not directly related to that activity, and again to the learning outcome. All right, so this is also another evidence-based criteria or element in the application form. Now, student engagement. Student engagement is also carries 20%, if I'm not mistaken. And so we still need to see, because Akri is basically about moving towards more engaging and active teaching and learning. And we want to see this from the various categories. So it's like Bahasa, they say it's not short sendiri, like I do the teaching, I do the learning or the assessment, and the students are not there in the picture. Because it's more about we want to see how students are more engaged. How are we really transforming teaching and learning to more towards active learning and to more of engaging students. So engagement can be in the creation of the alternative assessment itself. Maybe in your plan, you manage to get the students' feedback on what could be the more appropriate assessment that they feel it will show they are learning. Because we have to remember that assessment here is to demonstrate the application of the essence of knowledge and skills of the student. All right. So that has to be shown through the assessment. So you could have asked the student somehow on what is the assessment that they feel could be more effective. So here it's about you can show the student engagement. I think GPA is not really maybe this is the next one, but student testimony, may showing videos of students contributing, participating, actively engaged during the assessment, using pictures, products that they have came up with. Maybe the products could be projects, could be physical project, if it is from architecture, for example, or from civil engineering, designing bridges or whatever. So you can show this as a product. Could be documents, reports, and so on. It could be feedback from stakeholders. It could be statistics that you have collected or after conducting the assessment. So this is also an evidence-based. You cannot just say students were engaged and they were very happy without showing the evidence. All right. The impact on student learning is also important. Okay, sorry. One more thing is how far this alternative assessment project can be disseminated in terms of users from different fields in and or outside the institution. This is another part on the impact of students' learning. So how much impactful this assessment is on the students' learning. And that can be looked at from how far did the assessment, the alternative assessment, measured the actual capabilities of the student that you are trying to look at. If let's say it's about cognitive, how did this alternative assessment manage to measure that cognitive ability of the students on that particular learning outcome? If it is psychomotor, you need to show how did that alternative assessment improve their learning outcome in terms of psychomotor or affective domain. So again, it's not just that I've done the assessment, the students are happy. You need to show how did that assessment, how was it impactful in terms of achieving the learning, achieving the knowledge that, or the skill that you are looking at, or could be skill in terms of psychomotor, or maybe affective domain, looking at communication skills and so on. So if let's say you are teaching English language and you feel that I need to come up with an assessment which will improve students' speaking skills. So that is the learning outcome. So you assess, you go and come out with an alternative assessment which you believe that it will improve their speaking skills. And you create the assessment, you create the rubrics, you get the students to do a project or an activity, and you assess that using the rubrics, using the assessment, and you say, with this assessment that I have created, I managed to improve their speaking skills. And in the previous semester, with the previous assessment method, that was their level of speaking skills, based on the marks, or based on maybe peer assessment, or based on others' evaluations. Then you can show the difference and how did the assessment help in improving their English. All right, so you could involve them, for example, in speaking activity with native speakers of the language they are learning, and the assessment is based on the native speakers' understanding of the students when they perform their speaking exercise. So your alternative assessment now is not you are only assessing, you are getting somebody who is native to assess. You could do that with another university from the country of where the students are native speakers. So, but here, remember, the assessment is the core. Don't forget that. You can do this activity. It can be on the teaching, or it can be in the learning. But here we are talking about assessment. That's why I said, actually, if you work the project very well, it can be all the 3 categories at the same time. And you can later on pick and choose which one you want to apply. You can apply for all of them. And in terms of the impact, how far this assessment can be used in other fields. If, let's say, your assessment is made prepared for medicine students, and actually, since I mentioned about medicine students, Faculty or Kuliah of Medicine is one of the Kuliah which can apply for the first category curriculum, because they can actually modify the curriculum in a way where you get the students more engaged, and especially there are too many activities, and because it involves hospitals, it can involve community, so you can redesign your curriculum in a way that it will be suitable for the first category. So going back to alternative assessment, if, let's say, you are from Kuliah of Medicine and you came out with an assessment which enhance on psychomotor skills for a particular LO in a certain course, and you can say, you know what, you can use this in engineering. Actually, you can use it in IRK as well. It's not only limited to medicine. Just need to probably maybe you do some modification. You can just use it as it is. All right. So that will give a better quote-to-quote marks to the application in this particular criteria. Remember, this criteria carries 30%, so it is the second after rationale. And whether you have used this within the same institution, like I said, you give it to your colleagues in engineering, or you share this with your colleagues from Kuliah of Medicine or Faculty of Medicine in another university, UPM. Right? Say, we've been using this and this is the results. It's very good, and you can show them the results and they say, yes, we want to adopt and use this alternative assessment. That also will carry a good mark. Now, do we need to see this being done? Not necessarily. If it is done, it will carry probably full mark. But if you can show by narration and convince that it can be applied in engineering, and you give an example, this is how it can be applied in engineering. And of course, you can say this can be applied for any other medical school in Malaysia or any other country, because we have tried for this course, which is being taken by all other medical courses. So you can narrate to prove and show that this is possible, and you can actually apply it in other fields or the same field within the institution or outside the institution. I think I forgot to cover on the F2, which is on the proof of student engagement in the meaningful learning experience from the aspect of cognitive psychomotor. You can use logbooks, you can use videos or discussion or scripts. And also here, actually, you can show in terms of its improvement on the learning. You can also cover on, for example, the student's GPA or student marks for that particular course have increased compared to the previous semesters. So with using this alternative assessment, the students' marks has improved or have improved. And that will also reflect on the impact of the alternative assessment. The impact on student learning, this is on how far can the alternative assessment project be beneficial. Here you can talk about cost savings, time savings, reuse, sustainability, stakeholder engagement. These are some of the areas where you can elaborate. Like one of the elements where Dr. Shahriza's project, although it was not under alternative assessment, was impactful, is that he managed to bring the lab into, or the field into, a small kit. So where you need to go for field visits, rent buses. If it is outside far, you might need to have some lodging for the students. And as he mentioned, you need to do maintenance for, even if the university provides the ponds and the fish. So there are a lot of costs incurred for maintenance. So he managed to squeeze all this into a kit, and he managed to save a lot on this, on the cost where he might need to run the project. So this is just an example of how the project can reduce on or do some saving on costing. All right, you can encourage on sustainability as well, engage stakeholders in the assessment, like the project mentioned just now. If you are doing marketing, get the stakeholders involved in evaluating the students, right? And also this is also an evidence-based item. And that's it. I think that's all I can share with you. It's being the last speaker actually saves a lot of time to talk about many of the issues with applications, because it has been covered by all the other speakers. So I think in order to save time, everyone, I did not address these issues. But if there are any questions, probably maybe it will help highlight what I have not covered. So Dr. Hasmawati, the mic is back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ma'an, for sharing with us the criteria for the alternative assessment category. So to our audience, either in Zoom or those who are with us live through CPD YouTube channel, if you have any question, you can type on the chat box so that Dr. Ma'an can answer your question.
Well, one of the challenges of this criteria, while waiting for questions, if there's any, number one, not many are working on assessment. We do receive applications. I cannot really recall the number of applications. Sorry. But this category is not yet to the level of other categories. It's quite challenging because you need to kind of prepare, plan for that and show some outcome. So, but I think this is where we can improve our teaching and learning by looking at the assessment. It's very important criteria. And I think after going through RTL, we can see that assessment was the main challenge during the RTL.
Yes,
and I hope that some of us managed to do some breakthroughs during the RTL and coming out with alternative assessment, especially with courses like in engineering. Students were referring to services like CHEG, and the other day Forbes have come out with a report saying that CHEG shares have risen to I don't know how many billions during the pandemic. So that brings us to a very critical need to look at the assessment.
So there is one question, Dr. Ma'an, from our audience. It says, can the peer assessment methods be included? And do we need to show the rubric assessment?
Yes, any form of assessment can be included. But we have to bear in mind that peer assessment is there. Pedagogy is not new. We need to show how, what is the new in using this peer assessment rather than just using it in the conventional form. So like the example I've shown before, any of them can be like project-based or problem-based, can also be used. It's just that how how different did you perform that? And rubrics, yes, you must show the rubrics in the application. If there is no rubrics, probably the application will not have a good chance. And the thing is that nobody will call and say, do you have the rubrics? Is not attached. If it is not attached, that's it. We cannot call and ask for it.
So we don't have any more question from YouTube. Also no question. Okay, so one more. Is it okay if this new assessment addresses two domains, for example, psychomotor and affective at the same time?
Yes, I mentioned this before. Yes, we can. It's just that you can have two applications, one this year and one next year. I'm not sure if you win, you cannot apply again unless you get any of your colleagues to apply. You can even cover 3 domains. It's just that there will be heavy on the evidences, right? Again, if the learning outcome, usually we try to make the learning outcome related to one learning domain rather than 2 or 3. Because also for us, when we put the learning outcome, if we have too many domains for one learning outcome, it will be cumbersome on the assessment for that particular learning outcome. Especially if it carries psychomotor, and if you are from engineering and you have AAC coming to audit you, you have to show all these evidences. So when you say, I have psychomotor, they ask, show me, where is your evidence that you have used psychomotor? Show me your rubrics, all right? So if one is enough, it will make your application easier, less, not that heavy, with a lot of evidences and explanation, unless you couldn't separate, like I have to show both. Then, yeah, it's up to you to do that. And yeah, I think this is for the psychomotor and affective. I can see another question on the industrial be part of the assessment. Of course, this is also another way of showing how it is different, that the assessment is done by the industrial partner. I was mentioning just now to one of our colleagues from economics, because they are doing 3U 1I program, that this can be a good opportunity to apply for curriculum category. And actually, you can also use that component, not the whole activity. Use the part where the students are in the company or in the industry, and what is the assessment that is used to evaluate their learning by the industry. So then you have an alternative assessment, and it is by the industry. Now, sometimes we're actually doing it, but we are not aware that I can take this as a category and the alternative, for example. Yeah. So definitely, if you have industry, it will give higher weightage that you are involving one of the main stakeholders. If you can involve the community, also will carry a good weight. But you must make sure that the assessment is authentic and it is measuring the learning outcome that you are addressing, the domain that is covering that learning outcome. And if it is skill, then it shows that it's actually measuring that skill and assessing that skill in a very meaningful way. Not superficial, and it's just like assessment, but does it really show how much they have achieved that learning outcome?
Right. So thank you, Dr. Ma'an, for your explanation.
You're welcome.
And actually, I just have one more last question, because I think all of our speakers talk about evidence, how the evidence is very important for all the 4 categories. So I just want to ask, based on your experience as the panel, how long should we collect the evidence? I mean, like, is 1 semester enough, or does it have to be more than 1 semester to be enough?
Okay. For alternative assessment, you need at least 1 semester to to try and test the assessment, alternative assessment, and reflect on its suitability and whether it has achieved the objective and the goals. Going back, you remember to when we talk about the rationale why I'm doing this. So when you reflect at the end on the assessment, you have to reflect from, you see, the issue I have is the students are not interacting. They are not engaging. So I came up with this alternative assessment. So you need to show that engaging is happening. And at the same time, what is the learning outcome? How did it achieve that learning outcome? So you need at least one semester, but you have to bear in mind that when you start working on it, probably you need to start earlier in collecting evidences on that the current assessment has issue. If you have, let's say it's based on the marks of the student, you have no issue, because of course we will definitely have the marks for the previous semesters for this course. But if it is on other, let's say psychomotor, but it was not really measured before, so maybe you need to somehow reflect on that. And maybe you can just say that the students are doing this, but it has never been covered. So this psychomotor is important, and this assessment is coming to look into that aspect. So you need a bit of information from the previous semester or semesters, and you need to use that assessment for that one particular semester to come up with, to show some results.
Thank you, Dr. Ma'an, for answering the question. So I'll just quickly check on our YouTube channel first. So it seems like we don't have any more questions. So since we don't have any more questions, so I think we can close our session now. So I just want to say thank you to all of our speakers and to all of our audience as well for staying with us almost 4 hours now. And lastly, thank you to CPD for organizing this sharing session. Hopefully this will motivate or stimulate our staff here in IIUM to at least start collecting evidence, which is the most important part of the application. And hopefully we will see more of our staffs applied, and inshallah in the future we will see some winners maybe from IIUM on Akri. Okay, so
yes, actually, if you allow me, because I'm the only, no, actually we have one more from IIUM, but last year we had zero applications from IIUM.
From IIUM,
so
zero for all the categories.
All the categories. If not, if there are no panels from IIUM, then IIUM name will not be there at all. And last year the minister was Dr. Mazli, so he was asking how many applications from IIUM. So I hope this year we will have more applications, inshallah.
So hopefully we'll see improvement.
Yes, so thanks for CPD for organizing this very heavily. Hopefully it will encourage many people to apply. And I think not me being IIUM, even the other panels, they are very willing to share the experience later on. Let's say if you are thinking, you can ask us, like, I'm thinking of this, can I do? And then we can advise, and if I can advise on any other category, I will. If, let's say, I'm not very sure, we can refer you to the panels from other categories. And they are very much willing to help, although that will be competing with their university, but they still will act professionally and give some guidance. So at any stage, please feel free to ask. If your idea is there, ask, I have this idea, can I do it? And then if you start filling the form, you feel confused about anything, we will help. Of course, we are not going to tell you this is going to get you high marks or low marks. We're just going to do it very professionally without jeopardizing the integrity of the process. So please feel free to apply. Just kickstart it, and then inshallah you will move. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ma'an, for the advice. Right, at least maybe our Faculty of Engineering can start from our EAC documents. We have so many evidence for EAC anyway. So Dr. Mira or anyone from CPD, do you have any last words to say, or is it okay for me to just close the session?
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much to all speakers and participants. And we are from CPD. We will try to improve and supply lots of sharing sessions, inshallah, in the future. Thank you very much.
All right. So thank you to CPD. So I think we end our session here with Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Wal-As. And thank you everyone. Hope to see everyone again inshallah in another session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.